Está fuerte el calor, weón.
Se cayó el árbol.
Oh, ¿cómo le está, pero?
Se están cayendo los árboles.
Se van a reventar los neumáticos, weón. Cuidado, hay que seguir luego.
Vamos bien, cabros, vamos bien, tranquilos.
Quedamos encerrados. Cuidado acá. Cuidado, chiquillo, acá. Pongan la estructural. Pongan la estructural.
¡Cuidado!
¡Cuidado, la micro! ¡Avanza, avanza! ¡Avanza!
¡Está lleno de gente! ¡Está lleno de gente!
¡Hay gente!
¡Hay gente atrapada en la micro!
I'll include the link in the description where at 30 seconds in this DW News clip, this woman says that the fire came out of nowhere and that it felt like a hurricane force wind that came with it. I've seen her testimonial on multiple different news broadcasts. Just to avoid a copyright strike, I'll just leave it there, linked in the description. I'll also leave a video that I made just a few months ago on ion wind, also known as ionic wind, corona wind, or electric wind, that is associated with these fires. Each and every time, from Paradise to Boulder, it's always associated with a huge wind that comes out of nowhere. And I'll just go through some of the screenshots that I've taken. As you can see, it's all the same patterns. The glass is melted out of these cars, the rims are melted onto the ground and running down the street, and the trees are still standing and have their leaves on them. A lot of it gets redundant and repetitive. Here you can see the train track on fire. That's on a BBC News broadcast if you want to find it. I'm going to kind of blaze past this one because there's plenty of these and it just gets repetitive, and that was a animal that was deceased. Many of these show, let's look at this staircase. You can see the bottom stairs, the slats that you step on are still there, along with all the hand railing, but the upper stairs above the third or fourth stair are all burnt out. Fire doesn't work that way. A lot of them have the roofs burned off, but the walls are still standing. Many of these images are just to show that the trees are still standing in between all of the houses. Standard plasma fire burn signatures everywhere. And because it became so repetitive, I'll just cruise through some of these screenshots until we get to some that are of noteworthy, like these. Zero glass in any of the cars. Melted rims, no door handles, all the same patterns that I've identified hundreds of times, and the trees are still standing. Most of them still have their leaves on them. Again, trees in the background, destruction all over. I'll leave a link in the description to an 8-minute video that's a flyover. No narration, no talking head trying to tell you what you're looking at, just a flyover of 8 solid minutes of what happened here. Notice the poles are still standing. Some of them are repeats. Notice the poles are still standing. And we even have grass sticking up here in the foreground. My point is, this is 100% plasma fire. Slightly different burn signature on the houses that are not all pulverized to dust, which is what we've seen so often in so many of the other plasma fires, but I think it's because they use different building material. Their walls are built out of, I believe it's brick, and then a stucco applied on the outside of the brick. Look at all the leaves and all the foliage. The house is burned. The foliage in between the houses is left unburned. All over, trees standing everywhere in between all of the houses. It just gets repetitive and redundant, and I don't like being the only one that can see this. Notice the trees still standing. And the cars are turned to, they have the rust, which is electrolysis, and melted glass in each one of these cars. I guarantee you could look down into the cab and see the melted glass where it pooled up. We're missing the door handles, the rust pattern on all of the cars. Fire doesn't rust a car, but this type of fire does. So no door handles on any of them, no glass, melted rims, rusted look, or that white look. So I'm not like here trying to convince anyone that doesn't know about plasma fire. I'm just here to, on this video to show the people that do know about plasma fire that this was 100% indeed plasma fire. Look at this car. Look at the wood right next to it. The straight line right here where all the slats go from 100% burned on this car, on this side, 0% on this side. Because on one side, you had that's the perimeter of the car burning. The car burning has a perimeter of burn area that surrounds the car like that, like it's a conductor of electricity, like it's an antenna drawing the energy. And that's why those wooden slats look the way they do. 100% burned. Once they get close enough to the car, 0% burned. At a very fine line between the burn on the car side and the unburn away from the car. A little frustrating. Notice the trees. Notice the total devastation in between the trees. Notice the leaves on all of the trees. What more do we need to see? It's plasma fire. But one thing I will say is that this is a beach resort popular with tourists, like Lahaina, like the fires on the Isle of Rhodes in Greece. This happens to be something that, a repeating pattern where people that want to build giant hotels and really high-end resorts, but there's a bunch of locals that were residents there for generations living in these little huts and shacks that won't sell their land. Well, the only way to get it from them is to burn them out. So that may be what we're seeing here. It just happens to be a repeating pattern from Lahaina to this area where the locals, and it's a popular with tourists area, and I'm sure now big hotels and resorts will move in and build giant skyscraper type hotels and stuff. Trees remaining. This is a pattern that I'm noticing a lot of where the top has been burned off, and I'm sure the things inside are also burned. But it's because of the material it's made out of that we're not seeing this. In the United States and in Canada and in other Western countries, the houses when they burn are reduced to a white powder, and you don't even see a toilet or anything made out of ceramic like a tub or a sink. Reduced to white powder, there's nothing left. But in these, again, there's trees in between all the burnt houses. But the difference here is many of these did not get reduced to a white powder on the ground. They still have some sort of structural integrity remaining because they are made out of the non-flammable material of brick, but it's also non-conductive. It doesn't have metal and rebar and wire running through it. And that's why so many of these have what appears to be the roofs burned off, and probably maybe the windows melted out too. So there's just another example. Melted rims. I think we already saw that image. Trees, leaves. Looks like a wooden post here in the middle. Leaves still on the trees. And all the trees are standing in between the devastation. It gets a bit repetitive. There's some other things coming up though, so stick around. I'm not going to make this a very long video. Look at all the trees. They're showing you this weird angle of a camera, probably to show you all the trees in the foreground, in the background, everywhere. This one, I'm not sure, man. Is that wood? Is that like a wooden infrastructure? That's on the, I think that's the, I'm not sure. Arigang News, A-R-I-R-A-N-G, a Japanese news network, I believe. All the trees still standing, many with leaves still on them, just like that. Plasma fire 100%. Because to burn from one house to the other, you would need foliage in between. And people say, oh, I'm not going to try and convince anyone that doesn't get it. If you don't get it, watch my old videos. If you don't want to get it, then don't worry about it. This is plasma fire. I'm going to show you a short video where all of these leaves are burning independently and simultaneously like they are the end of a fiber optic cable. Oh, more trees and leaves and roots and everything around that's wooden and unburned. Melted rims, melted glass, missing door handles, all the same patterns that I've pointed out hundreds of times. Trees in the background. Trees right here in front of the devastated car that's completely demolished, yet this tree right here, the bark on the outside is a little bit singed. That's a repetitive pattern. That's a plasma fire burn signature. Trees everywhere, totally untouched, in between all of the total devastation. Trees everywhere. Why am I still the only one that sees this? India Today. That is the news clip that I will throw linked in the description that gives you 7 or 8 minutes of flyover with zero commentary. Now I know people are going to go, ooh, look, blue things don't burn, blue things don't burn. Those are probably tarps that were thrown up afterwards to give temporary shelter. But what I would like to look at is that raw wood. Is there a reason that didn't burn? Either way, you focus on blue things that didn't burn instead of the trees in between that didn't burn, and you're guaranteed to not get people to understand what's going on here. And maybe it's better that way. Chase that blue herring if you wish. But this looks like a wooden infrastructure building without any metal in it. So that's probably why it didn't burn. Even though it's raw wood, which is highly flammable, it didn't have any of the conductive material in it. So yeah, India Today flyover. It's almost an 8-minute long video that shows you nothing but visuals. It might have a little bit of music going in the background, but no narration. And that's a little tough to find. Usually it's a 2 or 3 minute clip, news segment, and you only get 5 seconds of images here and there. But again, I just feel like I'm repeating myself. Trees everywhere in between all the destruction. Yet they call it a wildfire or a forest fire. How about a structure fire? So here we have more examples of the roofs, the tops of these buildings that are burned off, but the building itself, the walls remain intact. And these are just screenshots of a flyover. You click the link in the description of the India Today news segment, and you'll just be able to see the flyover, and it'll give you a better visual than any other news segment that I came across. There's a red tent propped up. Those blue tents are probably very similar. Same thing. And all the trees everywhere that are unburned. That's what matters, not blue things. Even fence posts. See this fence over here, wooden fence? You'd think that would burn, right? But it's not conductive of the electricity. And if it's got more conductive material near it, that will conduct the electricity. Another example where the roofs burned off but the walls remain. So these plasma fires leave behind a slightly different pattern than the ones in the US and other places because the building material that is used. Trees everywhere, melted cars. We're going to get to showing you some cars that are stacked on top of each other and turned upside down. This one. And two right here. You'll get a better view here in a moment. Those are both upside down. This happened in the Paradise, California fires where cars were flipped over. And I think some people say, well, maybe it's the exploding gas tank flips the car over when it explodes. I think it's more like an electromagnetic thing when you pull two magnets together and they're facing negative to negative or positive to positive. You can try to push them together and they won't go together, but as soon as it flips, they suck together. And if there's electromagnetic frequencies going through the ground and the car has that same effect, it's magnetized with a positive on one side and a positive on the other, it makes it flip. Just like a magnet will flip 180 degrees instantly in order to stick to the other magnet. I believe that's what we're seeing here. That's two cars that are upside down right next to each other. They're both upside down. And across the street there's another one. You have one over here on its side and one that looks like it's lifted up. The ass end is all lifted up in the air. And in this India Today video, they focus on the melted aluminum rivets, rivulets, little rivers running down the road. They zoom in nice and close. I didn't zoom that in. They zoom in the India Today news clip. There's one stacked on top of another. There's two stacked on top of them. One right here, stacked on top of the other cars. One right here, stacked on top of another car. Explain that shit. Why am I still the only one that sees this? Oh, and all the trees everywhere that are unburnt without any leaves. There's still more good stuff to come. It's not just all repetition. So, these type of resorts and high-rise hotel buildings and offices are probably what's going to replace all those little shacks that got burned. Here, you see the wind blows the opposite direction of the movement of the fire. I've seen this plenty of times. This ain't the first time. The burn area is over here. Over here is unburned area. So, it would appear by the burned area that the fire is moving this direction, and it's already burned everything over here, and everything is unburned over here, but you can see by the smoke it's moving the opposite direction. I've seen images like this over and over and over again, where the smoke is actually coming back over the burn area, which means if the wind was all that was going to move the fire, that the fire would be headed that direction. But you can tell by the burn area and the unburn area that the fire is actually moving this direction, because it's already burned this area and this is unburned over here, so it's actually moving upwind. I've seen these images over and over and over enough to know that that's what we're looking at. The ion wind makes the wind blow in the exact opposite direction of the movement of the fire. The fire goes upwind. Trees all around, in between and surrounding all the devastation. Many even got their leaves on them. See the leaves? Leaves on the tree. Though the tree is singed, scorched, it still has its leaves. We're going to show you some of those leaves burning here in a minute. Look at all the unburned wood and leaves and twigs. These buses, no glass. That's not the type of destruction that happens in a fire. Only in these kinds of fires. And these leaves that we're about to show you, they all burn simultaneously. So I'm going to repeatedly play the very last 2 seconds of this coverage by Arigang News, where it looks like every leaf on the tree is burning independently. Not one leaf or the fire moving through the tree where it's catching some leaves on fire. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, right there. All the leaves are burning independently. I've got it slowed down to a quarter speed, 0.25 speed, because they only play it for the last 2 seconds. But as you can see, all the leaves are burning independently from one another. This image is more like what you would expect, a ball of flame moving through the trees where the leaves are all on fire, and then they catch the next one on fire as they move through the tree. What we're seeing at the very last 2 seconds here is like the whole tree electrified, and each one of those leaves is looking like a fiber optic filament, like that's where the electricity is exiting through. Each one of them burning simultaneously, not one catching the next on fire and then catching the next on fire and then catching the one next to it on fire. Each one of them is caught on fire, glowing independently and simultaneously, as if the tree itself has 1 trillion volts flowing through it. That's just the final still frame without their advertisements blocking half of the view. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I think there's a reason they only throw this in for the final 2 seconds. You get a glimpse of it, because if you were to look for a little while at that, you would notice something about that tree burning that's just a little different than what fire normally does as fire moves through a tree, catching some leaves on fire. Like all of these over here would have flame coming off of them, reaching over in this direction over here as it moves through the tree. But that's not what we're seeing. Each leaf is burning independently, not catching fire because of the leaf next to it has flames that are reaching up and moving over to it, catching it on fire. They're all burning independently and simultaneously. Like you're looking at the very tip of fiber optic cables.
All right, hello and welcome. It's Doug Diamond here. You're at another Diamond Report Live. It is 10:23 p.m. on February 11th, 2024. Yes, hope you enjoyed that video. I know it's kind of long, but I thought that was one of the best explanations that I think I've ever heard on plasma fire. And if you're like me, you assumed everything that it had happened in Paradise, California, and also in Lahaina and in various other places were DEW weapons, and perhaps plasma fires come from DEW weapons. I have no idea. But I thought that video really explained a lot and made a ton of sense. So, I hope you enjoyed that. I know it's kind of long, but I felt like I needed to show the whole thing. And, that wasn't me talking, obviously. That was courtesy of a Rumble channel that was mentioned there. All shall be revealed 67 on Rumble. So definitely go there and subscribe. I thought he did an incredible job explaining that. So anyway, let's take a look at a few other things here that have to do with the Chilean fire. And I did find some interesting things that I think you'll want to know about. So there's a lot going on with this fire. Obviously, the very first little short clip that we saw was the first responders in the fire somewhere in Chile there as it happened. That was very dramatic, I thought. So thanks to my friend B who sent that. And let's take a look at some of the other things that I have found just doing a simple search. You guys can look further on this, and again, if you're not on the Substack, make sure you're on my Substack list, because I'm going to send out the links to all of these things that I have found about the fire in Chile, as well as everything else that we talk about tonight. So the first thing I found here was I did a little search for Viña del Mar, which is where the fires were. And you can see here on this map roughly where it is in more or less the middle of Chile. So there it is. I've been as close as Lima and Cusco. I've been that far south before, but never down to here. Viña del Mar, which is near Valparaiso. So Valparaiso is a name that you're going to recognize, so I wanted to point that out on the map here. You can see that there's still fires here on this Google map that are showing up. Valparaiso Province wildfires. So apparently they haven't put them out yet. There's still some in the area. So here's what I found. I did a simple Google search, City of Viña del Mar, and also Chile Smart City project. I put all that into a Google search and I found some pretty interesting things. So here's what I found. Foundation of the Valparaiso, again, Valparaiso right here. So this is on medium.com. Foundation of the Valparaiso Smart City Hub, and it says SHUB, or SCH Hub in German, push. On October 18, 2018, a group of academics, businessmen, government representatives, municipalities, and civil society met for the first time at the engineering school at the University of Valparaiso to learn about a proposal to install a smart city hub in the Valparaiso region. You can see what some of that region looks like, some of the area that's currently burning. On that occasion, we had the support of the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, and it mentions who they are. And it says the meeting was attended by representatives of the municipality of Viña del Mar, amongst these other places like the Anders Bello University. It says that they experienced companies in the area of technology and business modeling, such as Reimagine Group, how about that name, and entrepreneurs such as Sebastian Acevedo and his startup Aprop, representatives of civil society, and a representative of the Honorable Senator from the region of Valparaiso, Mr. Kenneth Pugh, who is strongly pushing Valparaiso as a technological and innovative pole. And so what this article does is it explains how they want to convert some of this area into a smart city hub, or an SCH hub, or SHUB, as it mentions here at the top. So again, that's on medium.com, and found this one as well. Chile's Viña del Mar, a compact coastal city, has big aspirations. And again, it's talking about, it's Chile's fourth largest city, Viña del Mar. Population of 330,000 people. Known because of its greenery and parks. How about that? It forms parts of the Valparaiso region and includes the municipalities of, and then it mentions these other areas. And then some of the other extensive bits of information here about the area. Thought this was kind of interesting. Gives good history, good background of Viña del Mar, again, the area that burned. And then I found this on mdpi.com, assessing the role of land use planning in near future climate-driven scenarios in Chilean coastal cities. What more evidence do you want? They want to build a smart city there, just like Lahaina and so many other places. So this has this almost reads like a technical paper, almost like a patent. It starts with an abstract. It says this study reviews the degrees to which land use planning addresses climate change adaptation in Chilean low elevated coastal zones. We first select 12 of the country's most exposed coastal municipalities using a Municipal Exposure Index, MEI. Then we can conduct a content analysis of the communal regulatory plans. So this is kind of dry. You can read through this if you want to, but you can see they're talking about climate change in land use planning. And then again, the same area that we're talking about here. And you can download this entire thing as a PDF. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this particular thing, but you can see that they have big plans for the coastal city area here of Chile. And I would point out, too, that's where a lot of the earthquakes happen. So I don't think that's necessarily an accident either. You know how that goes. But, yeah, so there's that. And then here's a couple of the videos that were mentioned. I don't know if he mentioned this particular one from the AP, but this is a flyover, and it's talking about Viña del Mar. This is why I knew where to look for Viña del Mar. I knew how to look for it at that point because I watched this video earlier in my bit of research that I did last night on this. And look, hundreds of people still remain missing. Where have you heard that before? So I'll let you guys watch this video. There's well, it's actually only a minute and a half long. I guess I can kind of vamp over the top of it while this video is happening. The other video, the 8-minute long video from India, is also one that I found, and we'll definitely show you a clip of that as well. So look, my relatives are also deceased, burned with small children. So these people that were in harm's way are probably vaporized, just like the people in Hawaii, in Lahaina. 2 other towns in Valparaiso region have also been hit hard. So this may be another situation where these people that have lived there forever didn't want to give up their land. Just like in Lahaina. They didn't want to move. They didn't want to give up their land. And yet, they're being forced out here once they lose everything. So there's that one. And then this one is the India Today video that the first video we watched tonight also mentions. And I won't play this whole thing, but it's got a lot of really good aerial shots, a lot of good drone footage in it. And look at how close this one is. I mean, whoever took that video was right inside the fire. May have been firefighters. I don't know. All these guys have masks on. So it's pretty incredible. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Got almost zero press in the United States, as far as I could tell. I mean, alternative media, some channels were talking about it. But I do think it's important because if they can do this to Lahaina and Hawaii on Maui, and if they can do that to these little towns in Chile who have no way to, even possibly rebuild, most likely. Are they going to get help from the Chilean government? I doubt it. So there's some drone footage here. Let me see. You can see the utter devastation. And it just goes on and on. This is an 8-minute video here. So this is the video that was mentioned in the first video by that guy that was talking from the All Shall Be Revealed 67 channel on Rumble. Again, highly recommend his video content. I think he's doing really good work, and I did watch some of his other videos as well. So definitely go there and check that out. And in the meantime, again, we'll link to all of these things in the Substack post. So if you're not on my Substack list, you can go there and subscribe for free. And I recommend that you do that. I will send out the links to all of these things that I talk about tomorrow. Hopefully it's at some point tomorrow. If not, it will be Tuesday. But we'll see how things sort of unfold. I've got a lot to share with you guys tonight, so I'm not sure how much we can get to tonight. Were y'all watching the Super Bowl? That's probably what you guys were doing. I know. You don't have to lie. No, I'm just joking. But I think actually the Super Bowl was just ending as I was going live, from what I could kind of gather by looking at Twitter here and there. So yeah, we'll get into that a little bit further as well. And shocker, yes, I know it's an utter shock. The Chiefs won. So a little bit of a little surprise there, huh? What a twist. The Chiefs, along with Taylor Swift, won. I know. You're as shocked as I am. All right, so let's start with HalTurnerRadioShow.com. Israel begins bombing Rafah. Tanks are now moving in. So Hal's doing some really good work, I think, so feel free to take a look at these articles on his site. Let's go ahead and click into it. Most of these are open to the public, so you can, even if you're not a subscriber, he's apparently decided to open these back up again. So, unless they say exclusive for subscribers only, I think you probably can go here and have a look. There's he always has good videos and pictures that go along with what he's talking about, it seems like. So it says, despite being publicly and privately warned, Israel has begun bombing Rafah in the Gaza Strip. So south of Gaza. Palestinian TV, intense land, sea, and air bombardment on all areas in the city of Rafah, which is the south area of Gaza. Didn't they send all of the people originally in the Gaza Strip and they tell them to all go south, and now they're bombing the south? Mosque bombed by airstrike. So, once again, the vaunted IDF and Israelis that you cannot criticize. All right. So, a new article that just popped up here as I went back on the to the homepage. Breaking news: Syrian foreign minister, we are ready for war with Israel. Wow. That is crazy. Syria has waged several wars against Israel and is ready for new ones. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad warned during a joint press conference with his Iranian counterpart on Sunday. Yeah. And then this is one that I have mentioned before, although I didn't show this particular picture. Proof: international organizations engaged in criminal conspiracy to aid and abet illegal immigration into the USA to collapse the country for UN Agenda 2030 goals. Yes, the Great Replacement. It's not a theory. We are to be replaced. We are to be phased out and killed. Hence, the reason they did the and everything else they're doing to us. U.S. Secretary of Defense hospitalized again. Lloyd Austin III was transported by his security detail to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Somebody tell that guy to quit taking sneeze if he wants to live. It might be too late. I don't know. I've got another article on that pulled up. We'll take a look at that in a little while. Israel warned by Egypt, Jordan, and the Saudis against Rafah invasion, and Egypt is moving tanks to their border, to the border there. It says, worsening, Russia deploys 9 nuclear-capable long-range bombers near Alaska. Here's one where it says, contents for subscribers only. So I can't really click on that and show you guys. I'm not logged in anyway, so it wouldn't do any good. But you guys can subscribe. It's definitely well worth it, I think. Hal is doing some incredible information, putting out some incredible information, doing a really great job. Now, one of the things I wanted to take a look at, because I know it will probably come up, if not now, then in a little bit in chat, and that is the NOTAM. You guys know what I'm going to say? Bulletin. European country issues NOTAM for unplanned military activity necessary to protect national security. All right. If you don't know about this, well, I guess he said it for subscribers, but this is something that he has talked about on the radio, so we can talk about it because he's put it out there publicly. And that is, just to put it just kind of quickly, let me make sure there's no other article on that here. I don't see any others. Well, essentially, yes, it's Poland. It's Poland, and they put out a notice to the airmen there, and essentially is saying, that they need to keep watch for unplanned military activity over the eastern part of Poland. And long story short, Hal has sort of extrapolated that means that sometime between the beginning of that and May 5th is what we're looking at for potential World War III, nuclear war, blah, blah, blah. And I've been asked about that by several people, and rightfully so. How do I feel about it? What do I think about it? And I think the verdict's still out. I think he does put a pretty wide window there, and obviously he could be right. I feel like we've been on the knife's edge as far as World War III starting at, for a long time, really many months. And I've been talking about World War III starting for several years at this point. But it hasn't happened yet. And so the question is it going to happen based on what Hal's talking about? And he's even done some other interviews and stuff. He was on Jeff Rentz's show, I know, talking about this very thing. And I don't know. There's no way to know. It's a wide window between February the 5th and May the 5th. Anything could happen. I do think it's interesting. Just, you guys know I'm a dates type of person and like to look at the numbers. I just like to kind of try and put some thought to it and pray over it. And I would recommend that you guys do that as well. Note that in that window of time between February 5th and May 5th, when this potential for World War III starting could be, you have March 11th in there, which is an important date. Think Fukushima for once. That's one thing. April 11th is another important day as well. For me personally, you guys know. So there's several days there that I think that, you know, it's very possible that those that are in charge of the coming world government and everything else that's happening, you know, they could be looking at that. That might be an actual window, although I just don't know. And I know you guys don't know either. I would just ask that you do, like what my YouTube channel says, take it to the Lord in prayer. I'm going to try and do that as well. So I have no idea. I do think it's an interesting scenario that he has posited, and I don't say that he's wrong. I just say that, you know, he's been wrong on stuff like this before, and I'm hoping he's wrong this time too, because that's really only the next several weeks and months. So we will see. And definitely take a look at his website. I feel like he's doing really good work. All right, let's keep moving. Need to know.news. Schumer threatens to send U.S. troops to fight Russia unless Republicans agree to his $100 billion bill. Isn't that nice? The Senate's $118.28 billion national security supplemental package. It's a supplement. It's just a little extra. Allocates $60 billion in military aid to Ukraine and $14 billion to Israel. Only $20.23 billion was allocated to secure the U.S. border, like it will ever go there for that reason. An unprecedented invasion of military-age males from Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and China. Democrat Senator Chucky Schumer told Morning Joe's Mika Brzezinski, yes, that's Zbigniew's daughter, that American men will die in war if Republicans don't agree to his $100 billion bill. He said, quote, if we don't aid Ukraine, Putin he probably means will walk all over Ukraine. We'll lose the war. That's already happening. And we could be fighting in Eastern Europe and NATO ally in a few years. He added, Americans won't like that. However, Ukraine is not a member of NATO and does not have the protection of U.S. troops, which apparently means it's okay for the U.S. troops to go fight and die there. I don't know. Schumer said that if the bill is killed, America will regret it. Well, I don't think it will be, and in fact, I'm not sure, but it may have already passed. Anyway, not good news. There's some additional information here on this article. And this was dated February 7th. That was a few days ago now. So I think it passed, but I'll double check that for you guys. O'Keefe Media Group sends illegal alien undercover to infiltrate secret illegal migrant or immigrant compound. Tucson. O'Keefe Media Group has done it again. Infiltrated a secret government compound in a converted Ramada hotel that's used to house illegals. It's overseen by a Catholic charity group called Casa Alitas. Buses filled with migrants roll in every 15 minutes. O'Keefe Media Group sent an illegal alien, I'm sure they had to pay him, to go undercover. Another illegal told the undercover reporter the NGOs funding the invasion they say they get paid no matter what. They get paid no matter what. Tucson police were involved in protecting the operation. So, and that's in the video, by the way. The Pima County Sheriff told O'Keefe to stay off the private property and refuse to answer questions. They always go back to the old private property thing. But the video's right here. He's pretending to be a homeless person, and it's pretty funny, actually. But then he throws off his disguise, and then it's kind of in a gotcha moment with the police. And he asks them why they're protecting the illegals. And then, of course, they don't want to answer his questions. So, need to know.news, that's where that one is. This one, too, money-making machine. Did Colony Ridge developers pay off Texas Governor Greg Abbott? That's a rhetorical question. I have no idea. Maybe they did, but maybe not. Glenn Beck described Colony Ridge as a money-making machine. He pointed out that the mass immigration of 10 million people into the U.S. is causing massive economic damage and is changing the politics and character of the U.S. Governor Greg Abbott has taken more than $1.5 million from the developers of Colony Ridge. Maybe that's why he's decided to suddenly secure the border. Maybe that's why it's important now, so he doesn't get caught. Colony Ridge is a 40-mile stretch of housing development that is 35 miles north of Houston and may house up to 75,000 people. It has attracted illegal alien settlements in the state of Texas while draining resources from neighboring cities. John and Trey Harris are billionaire brothers who developed the area and advertise fantasy home ownership that Beck says ends in default about 30% of the time. Both locals and law enforcement sources told the New York Post that they believe the Sinaloa and Gulf cartels bought property there early and have considerable influence. So there's the interview. Pat Bet-David, I think is his name. And Glenn Beck there as well. So who knows? It's very possible that Greg Abbott did take the money, and we'll probably never know. But then again, he's a Republican, and they don't usually get away with stuff like that. Let's just say it that way. Democrats always get away with it. Totally fine if they do it. So maybe he just needs to put a D beside his name instead of the R. Michigan jury finds school shooter's mother guilty of involuntary manslaughter. And I was reading through this trying to figure out which shooting, because there's so many school shootings, trying to figure out which one it was. And unfortunately, I don't really remember this. Oxford High School. But there's a couple links out to some other articles. But yeah, Detroit, Michigan, Ethan Crumbley, this guy, who was 15 at the time of a school shooting in November 2021, pleaded guilty to 24 crimes that included murder and terrorism. See, the shooter doesn't usually end up living, do they? But this guy did. 4 students were killed and 7 more people were injured. He was sentenced to life in prison. James and Jennifer Crumbley are the first parents in U.S. history to stand trial for a mass school shooting committed by their child. Ethan's parents gave him a gun as a gift and allegedly kept it in an unsecured drawer in their bedroom. Ethan showed signs of mental problems before the shooting and had sent text messages to his parents about demons and hallucinations that they allegedly ignored. Sounds a little bit like a CIA program, doesn't it? Demons? Maybe. Maybe not. Ethan's mother, Jennifer, was found guilty on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. She will be sentenced in April. James, his father, has also been charged with 4 counts of manslaughter and awaits trial. So that is pretty wild, that the parents are being held responsible. Now, that tells me that this school shooting that they're finding people guilty for and sending to prison for life, that tells me that this was not an officially sanctioned CIA type of operation. Because if it was, they would all be disappeared. And you'd never hear from them again. They'd probably be lounging on the beach somewhere. And, everything would be sorted out, but not through the court system, because everyone who would be able to be held accountable would, of course, be dead, quote unquote. So these people were not, they did not escape. So that kind of tells me that this was not an official type of program. And perhaps it was a copycat type of program, which school shootings often are, but school shootings more often than not are more official government programs where they are running the actual operation, which you guys know that, but I just thought it was kind of interesting that the mother has been found guilty here. Pretty wild. Ex-CIA computer engineer who leaked secrets to WikiLeaks gets 40 years in prison. Former CIA officer Joshua Schulte, 35, is said to be the largest leaker of CIA data in U.S. history. He was convicted of the so-called Vault 7 leak that revealed that CIA hacked Apple and Android phones in overseas spying operations. So you can't really go tell on the CIA, because that tends to get you in trouble. See, now he's the bad guy. It doesn't matter what the CIA did, does it? He was also convicted on separate charges for possessing child sexual abuse images, which they probably planted. That's the way it works. Schulte was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Code Pink criticized the harsh sentence for a security leak and posted this message on X. Joshua Schulte has been sentenced to 40 years in prison. There have been no consequences for those at the CIA whose cyber hacking efforts he revealed. That's because they are nameless, most likely. This is a vicious attempt to intimidate whistleblowers from informing the public about our government's crimes. And once again, they will skate. They will get away with it because there are no names. So, anyway. Yep. Somebody else that's a whistleblower that's being held to different standards. Not too surprising, though. Revolver.news. Here's a few articles I found. Another one bites the dust. The USDA Forest Service goes up in flames thanks to its radical DEI program. We've talked about DEI at length on this broadcast, but yet again, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion initiative is catching a lot of heat. We're witnessing corporations and institutions crumble as they hire underqualified employees, all in the name of meeting some twisted woke quota. The future of the USDA, along with all federal departments, is dramatically shifting towards prioritizing skin color, gender fluidity, and sexual preference over actual excellence, skill, or ability. The USDA Forest Service is diving headfirst into the controversial and dangerous DEI agenda in a new action plan posted on its website that is sparking controversy and concern, or as they say in England, controversy and concern. It's got many folks wondering why the U.S. is leaning towards a charity approach instead of striving for excellence, especially at a time when countries like China are eating our lunch as we lag behind because we're hyper-focused on coddling cross-dressing men and women. It's because it's part of the official agenda, you see. Yeah, so anyway, quite a bit here, and you can see the lovely winners of the government jobs. So yes, it's a race to the bottom to get there as quick as possible. We're winning that race, I think. Watch. Citizen reporter discovers that illegals are excited to vote for Biden in 2024. Who are you going to vote for? Joe Biden, she says. Well, it looks like Biden's controversial new voting base is gearing up to make its big mark sooner than anticipated. The idea of having to wait generations to cultivate a loyal army of Dem voters just flew out the window. They're arriving with every intention of voting in 2024 to elect Biden. They're primed and ready. This eye-opening revelation came from a citizen journalist who, after conversing with illegals, found out that they've been led to believe, by whom exactly, that their fake asylums claims grant them the right to vote in U.S. elections, which it might in certain cities and certain states. And their candidate of choice, of course, is Joe Biden, without a doubt. Here's what went down. Illegal migrants talk about the 2024 election. They believe they entered illegally because they made a claim for asylum, a fake claim, so they think they can vote. So the reporter says, who are you going to vote for? The illegal says, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is helping us here. Of course, for Biden. And here's the video. They go through all of the details here. The Biden administration is actively aiding and abetting illegal immigration because they are viewed as future voters. While I don't agree with a lot of what Musk does, he's right about that. At least in part. So yes, they're also meant to replace us long term. Yeah, just wait until the illegals become the brown shirts, Kelly says. Yep, exactly. That's another reason they're being brought in. So they can become our police force. Mayor to critics questioning her lavish personal spending. She says, shame on you. You're attacking a black woman in power. You can't do that. Apparently, it's more important to be a black woman in power than it is to be a decent, hardworking leader. That seems to be the message coming from the rather flashy mayor of Dolton, Illinois, who is under fire for her lavish personal spending. Tiffany Henyard is stirring up quite the drama with her love for the finer things in life, which is fine, but it seems that Miss Henyard may be purchasing her goodies on the taxpayer's dime. Henyard's got a very flashy style with her nails and hair always did up. done did up. The town's trustees are raising eyebrows over her lavish spending, and when they called her out, the fireworks started. Henyard, who some might say got the gig for ticking the DEI boxes rather than actual skills, didn't just snap back. She went full-on diva on them. She accuses the trustees, all of whom are black, of picking on a black woman in power and made it crystal clear she's the big boss woman. Caught on video, the showdown is nothing short of eye-popping. Henyard's sassy comeback is a live tutorial on how not to answer to fiscal irresponsibility. Anyway, so I guess we should hear it, huh? Dalton mayor goes off on a group of trustees after being questioned about her overspending. I'm the leader. You all forget I'm the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. You all ain't learned that yet. So here she is in all of her glory. Ready?
Y'all should be ashamed of yourself. Y'all black. Y'all are black. And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
I mean, what else do you need to say there? That is hilarious. She's black, so therefore she can do anything she wants to. Bottom line. At least she thinks so. Yep, these days if you hire or elect a black woman, it's for life. Good luck ever replacing them, you bigot. That's exactly right. Yep. What's the Bible say about wrong being right and everything being turned upside down? We are definitely there, my friends. And so it begins. 2 JetBlue airplanes collide in Boston. They're showing a little diagram here of them colliding midair. I don't think that happened. So here's what it says. The chaos and mayhem plaguing our airline industry reached a peak yesterday in Boston when 2 JetBlue planes collided on the tarmac. Thankfully, everyone's safe, with no injuries reported, I would say, yet, this time. But this begs the burning question, what in the world is happening with U.S. aviation? Well, we've already talked about that, and it goes back to the DEI thing and all of the woke employees at these various airlines. So we've talked about that at length on this show. Right here, you got to ask yourself if this mess is just another side effect of the DEI craze sweeping through the industry. It's all about hiring based on skin color, gender identity, and who you love, rather than what you know and how well you can do the job. That's a pretty good summary right there. So along those lines, and again, we'll link to this. It's on revolver.news if you guys want to pull it up on your computer or your phone. That's totally fine. In the meantime, though, I wanted to show you guys this video I came across. Pilot of major airline warns that thousands of people are at risk from death from unqualified pilots due to DEI. So let's take a look at this. I did notice that the audio and video are a little bit out of sync in this. I will fix that in the upload, but I can't really fix it here in the live broadcast. So just so you guys know, it's not me doing it. It's not the software doing it. It's the video. So we'll fix it later. But here it is. I thought it was really interesting.
All right, take a look. We have breaking news tonight with a testimony. I'm going to read this. This was given to me this afternoon exclusively after my phone conversation with a pilot at a major airline. After an extensive conversation, he was about ready to appear on the broadcast only with his voice, but family members were concerned that it could be the end of his job if that, was discovered as to who he was. So he wrote me the following. To whom it may concern, I am an airline pilot for a major airline in the United States of America. I'm concerned with the recent hiring practices at the FAA and at the airlines. We have completely gotten rid of all intelligence and common sense requirements in order to control multi-million-dollar aircraft that come within 1,000 feet of other aircraft while carrying hundreds of thousands of people a day. And we are on a collision course. Major airlines, due to initiatives signed by Barack Obama, have incorporated DEI initiatives into their hiring practices to where the CEO of United Airlines, Scott Kirby, has stated that, quote, 50% of all his pilots are going to be either black or female, end quote. So now we are hiring people based off of their skin color and gender status instead of their skill set. We are no longer hiring the most qualified candidates. This is a tragedy waiting to happen. As a major airline pilot, I had over 10,000 plus hours when I was a check airman for a Delta feeder. I had a black female pilot with 2,200 hours of flight time give up controls on the expressway visual into LaGuardia Airport at 500 feet and almost killed everybody on board. Her response to me when we landed, quote, "It doesn't matter. I'm going to work for Delta in 2 weeks," end quote. Meanwhile, I and other people of my caliber and qualifications with no failed check rides, full bachelor's degrees, 6,000 hours of flight time, more than this person, couldn't even get a phone call to get an interview because we were not black or female. The FAA is now doing the same practices and has stated they're going to start hiring people with autism and Down syndrome and other disabilities. And they're going to be the ones responsible for controlling all of these airplanes in the sky. There have been over 10,000 airplanes flying over the United States since Barack Obama signed this DEI initiative. In 2010, we've seen a major increase by 200% of near misses and or close calls with ATC controllers and pilots, from the Southwest airline incident in Austin, Texas, to Spirit Airlines out of Fort Lauderdale, the Southwest out of John Wayne, to Alaska Airlines out of Portland, Oregon. All almost near misses due to controller error and or unqualified pilots. A prime air crash that went down off the coast of Houston, Texas. The pilot had multiple check ride failures and had a history of pushing buttons that were not called for to be pushed on checklists. We also had the 777 that no one seems to be talking about that almost crashed off the coast of Hawaii and came within 700 or 800 feet of smacking the water. And United has covered up their identities, their race, and their sex. Why is that? The other thing we're seeing right now is the Senate and Congress are getting ready to pass a bill to extend the requirement age from 65 to 67, which is another ticking time bomb, as you have all of these people double and triple and have also included in that bill is they're trying to lower the requirements for people to get hired at the airlines. We are heading down a collision course, and we are going to kill hundreds, if not thousands of people in the airlines. This needs to be addressed and addressed fast before people die, end quote. Exclusive statement sent to me tonight by this airline pilot. He sent it to me again because he was afraid to appear on the broadcast, even with just his audio, not his face. He didn't want to lose his job. Neither did his family want him to lose his job. So we asked if he would simply write up what it is he would like to share with you, the American people, and with members of Congress. And there it is, an exclusive tonight on Brandon House Live. Political correctness, cultural Marxism. One has to wonder if one of the goals and objectives here is to make it so that people don't want to fly. After all, isn't that the goal of Agenda 2030? Isn't that the goal of the World Economic Forum? That only the uber rich will be flying? And then I bet a lot of these plans go away. In fact, over the last few months, I've heard of some of the uber rich with their private planes. And I'm not against people with private planes. Many of them have worked hard, and, well, that's their right. They're busy people with limited time, and they need to get there and get there fast. And who would want to fly on a commercial flight today with that report? So maybe more people will be joining those kind of clubs where you can hop a private plane if they can afford it. But I have been hearing of more of those kind of people with those kind of planes and private pilots looking for have no pilots. Apparently, some of those who can afford to have a private jet don't want to have double, triple pilots. Can you blame them? So indeed, we are seeing what could be a manufactured crisis to make it so that people don't want to fly. That would certainly fit the agenda of the environmentalists. After all, they hate airplanes anyway and have already stated they really pretty much want to bring flying to a complete halt. except for, of course, the global elite that run to Davos every year in their private jets. That will be acceptable. There are lots of reports out tonight. I don't have time to get into all of them. I have more information tonight than I have time to cover. But I find it coincidental, and maybe it's not, maybe it's providential, that the same day that this pilot talked with me on the phone and sent over this statement, I also found this tonight over at Daily Wire. Plan to reduce the number of white males in aviation. Matt Walsh reveals troubling internal footage of FAA discussion on DEI agenda. That's the diversity, equity, and inclusion politically correct agenda. You go out on X tonight, type in Matt Walsh, you'll find some of it. Let me just play a little bit. The footage begins with FAA Acting Deputy Chief Operating Officer Angela McCullough saying more workers need to go from ramp to cockpit. Meaning she wants to see more baggage handlers become airline pilots. No, maybe the janitors can sit in the co-pilot seat. Listen to this.
Approaching some of these things differently than we have historically approached them, and just even the internal bias. I mean, particularly in flight ops, your whole program is very heavily male dominated. It just is, and really, it is white male dominated. Let's just say what it is, and so let's be willing. That is today what it is, and then let's talk about what could the future look like if we really had this program that was representative of the whole country, right, of the whole world. And sometimes those are challenging,
running just a little,
or, difficult, or I would say people get a little bit uncomfortable talking about that, and like, hey, we're not going to make change unless we get a little bit uncomfortable. And let's be uncomfortable together, and let's do the right things and support each other moving forward. So,
well, there you go. And if you go out on X, you will find a lot of these reports by Matt Walsh, who's really been doing a great job telling us. Here's one. The source also notes that Delta routinely makes the exceptions for trans-identifying pilots concerning grooming and behavior standards. Internally, Delta has even published a lengthy guide for pilots who believe they were born in the wrong body. Oh, can you believe it? I'm glad I don't fly. I took my last flight in February of 2005. I bought a motor coach in 2003. Burned up two motor coaches traveling this country, and then finally went to just renting them, getting on board and going to bed, and waking up where I needed to be. But boy, I'm glad I don't fly anymore. You guys really should look into this new article tonight. It's sad. Over the Daily Wire. Wow.
All right. Well, you got the point. You got the idea. And yeah, I saw some folks in chat saying, I'm done flying. And me too. Yeah. And I had a hunch this was coming. And my guess is when, not if, like they always say, when, not if, an airplane goes down, whenever it happens, or several of them, they're going to hide what happened. Because it's going to come back to this. We all know that this is going on. And when it happens, it will be covered up. It will be covered up from the top down, not just those at the airline in which it happens, but also from the government regulators, from the FAA people, whoever investigate. It's all going to be covered up. So there will be no justice. So just get ready for that. There will be zero justice when it happens to the families that are left after the victims are killed. Whatever planes go down. Because it's really going to happen probably sooner rather than later, as they say. So, very sad fact, but that is the upside down world we're living in. All right. Well, the big interview, the buzz, the last few days. The old Tucker and Putin interview. Says the media absolutely loses its mind over Tucker doing his job and interviewing a world leader. I thought that was funny. Tucker Carlson, like any normal journalist, interviews world leaders, controversial or not. That's a journalist's bread and butter. Well, it used to be. Not anymore. You can only interview approved world leaders. They go and sit down with important, intriguing people and present a range of views and topics for public discussion and debate. That's a journalist's job in a nutshell. Yet it seems most journalists in the U.S. have strayed very far from their profession. Instead of pursuing stories with curiosity and dedication to facts, they've morphed into full-blown propaganda pushers for the regime. That is exactly right. They politicize every topic, standing their progressive ground like they're in the trenches for the endless battle. As they lose their minds over Tucker's interview, the rest of us, Americans and people worldwide, simply watch, listen, and make up our own minds, as any normal society would. After all, Tucker certainly isn't the first to sit down with Putin, right? Well, I think that's probably true. Says he's not the first person to interview Putin, but he's the only one who won't push the CIA-approved narrative, and that's exactly what's sending the legacy media into meltdown mode. So whether or not you care for Tucker Carlson, the point here is that he doesn't seem to be pushing the overall main narrative, and that is of the Biden administration and the CIA and the people running the actual show, So Obama, the actual president at the moment, and so forth. I would agree with that. So even if you don't like Tucker, I feel like he's not really following along those lines. I think if he were, he would be getting all sorts of praise from the media if he was doing exactly what they do. But he's not. Does that make him controlled opposition? I don't know. You guys be the judge. I personally think that he is a good person and that he means well, and that they really hate him for real. So if you don't want to believe that, that's totally up to you. That's it's your prerogative for sure. But pretty funny, yeah. There he is with all these other people who have interviewed him. So it says journalism, treason. It's okay when Barbara Wawa does it, or George Stephanopoulos, or whoever this guy is from, I think, 60 Minutes maybe. Anyway, so yeah, if you haven't watched the interview, it's available. I was going to watch it. I watched a little bit of it, but not the whole thing. It's pretty long. I think it's a couple hours. It's available on Tucker's website, and I know it's on his Twitter as well, so that's probably where I'll watch it. And I noticed a little while ago when I was looking at it, it had over 194 million views. Wow. That is some social media power right there. Too crazy. Burning up the Twitter servers, apparently. Well, here it is right here. I actually opened the page. Here, let's do a refresh and see. It's got 194.3 million views. Now, this was when I loaded this page, it was, I don't know, maybe an hour or two ago. Let's see now what it says. Yeah, 194.7. So it's got quite a few more just since that time. I think when I loaded the page earlier today, it was 192 million. So it's gotten a couple million just since I've had this page open since earlier today. So that is the power of name recognition and social media. And Vladimir Putin is somebody that the world wants to hear from. But guess what? You can't hear from him if you are listening to the U.S. mainstream media and most of the Western media. They want to control the narrative, and see, Tucker Carlson sidesteps their narrative. And you go direct to the source, in this case, Putin. So anyway, pretty interesting. I will be watching the full interview at some point. I don't know if you guys have watched it or not, but it is there and it's available if you want to. Technocracy.news. First three articles on the website at the moment that are front and center. Michael Mann, you may remember him, versus Mark Stein, the criminalizing of free speech in America. Climate scientist, quote unquote, Michael Mann, inventor of the discredited hockey stick. You guys remember that? Just won a $1 million judgment from popular conservative commentator Mark Stein in a U.S. court, effectively criminalizing free speech. Well, that had already happened with Alex Jones, maybe last year or so, whenever he had a $1 trillion, multiple $1 billion and several $1 trillion, I think, judgment against him. Effectively criminalizing free speech, Mann sued the late Dr. Tim Ball in Canada over his authoritative criticism of the hockey stick. Ball cleaned man's clock in the Canadian Supreme Court. So that's kind of interesting. And I guess I didn't realize Tim Ball had died, but that's somebody that I know Dane has had his issues with over the years as well. Mr. Dane. So that's an article on technocracy.news. And then this one, battle lines are forming as populist revolt spreading across the West. Alex Newman travels the world as an international journalist and has seen the forces of populism align themselves against their technocratic overlords. You won't see this in Western media because it's already captured by enemy forces spewing anti-populist propaganda like raw sewage. Yep, we were just kind of talking about that already. That's all the mainstream media is. Just propaganda repeaters. But anyway, those 3 articles are on technocracy.news. ReclaimTheNet.org. Just take a look at the headlines here, but you guys can pull this up if you want. Jim Jordan and 44 other members of Congress submit brief to the Supreme Court in major big tech censorship case. Supreme Court's deciding whether the federal government pressuring social media platforms to censor is a First Amendment violation. What do you think? Treasury Department's Janet Yellen dodges questions on financial surveillance of MAGA and Trump. Meta and TikTok sue the EU over online speech laws. Australia plots digital ID launch for this year. To all of my Australian friends, be on the lookout. Looks like it may be headed your way soon. The EU's strict online speech laws are set to impact U.S. citizens in 2024. WHO report proposes working with social media providers and law enforcement to control disinformation. And emails show Facebook censored posts at Health Canada's request, proposed streamlining censorship. So those are on reclaimthenet.org. Have a look if you want. And Liberty Beacon, thought this was kind of funny. Fraud study finds Trump almost certainly won in 2020. And in other news, the sun rose today. Yeah. Fraud study by the Heartland Institute says Trump won in 2020. News to all of us, I'm sure. So there's a Liberty Beacon article here and one more. Reiner Fulmick, day 3 of the trial, the detailed account of a trial observer. So I don't know if you guys knew he was under fire. Reiner Fulmick has been in jail for some time. He was I don't remember, Mexico or something, and they basically took him back to Germany, and he's been standing trial for some time now. It says that if it is true that Fulmick was set up, is that surprising? His job from the get-go put a target on his back. Any good work against the cabal is always infiltrated. Benjamin Fulford remarked way back how the work of Fulmick was influential on members of the various intelligence services worldwide who became convinced that the was indeed just that, perpetrated evidently from on high. Friend and lawyer Dagmar Schoen commented a while back how Reiner was too trusting around people he should have suspected, such as a rather odd woman, Vivienne Fisher. If he was allowed to present the compelling evidence on many other experts on the Corona Committee, it stands to reason that something was being cooked up behind his back. Below is the account of the latest day of the trial. Reiner Fulmick, day 3 of the trial, the detailed account of a trial observer. So, there it is, and you can see it's quite a bit here. There's Reiner, if you didn't know who he was. But, yeah, he's definitely got a big target on his back. He was doing some good work before he got picked up and now jailed. It's not exactly a whistleblower, but he was in that ballpark, in that camp a little bit. And you can see why they would want to silence him as quickly as possible. All right, let's take a look at some articles and things I found off of Daily Crow. This is one that came up. I think this came up in the broadcast I did with Loyalty I guess it was back in, was that November? Maybe in November, December, whenever we did that broadcast together. This is something that came up then, and it's a video by El Shaddai Ministries highlight how the coming eclipse may mean trouble ahead. So, well, here, let's just listen to the first little bit of it, and then I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to listen to the whole thing.
How many total solar eclipses have been over the United States since we became a nation in 1776? Anybody know? I will tell you. 8. Here's when they occurred. We had 2 in the 1700s. 80 years later, we had 3 in the 1800s. 92 years later, we had 2 in the 1900s. We're now in the year the millennium or whatever, 2000 or the century. If you see, there's only 7 there. When was the 8th one? It's in this century. 38 years later, on August 21st, which was the great American eclipse that went from Oregon all the way down through the Carolinas. Everyone remember that? Okay, here's what's significant. That was the 8th one, and 8 always speaks of new beginnings. Okay, it's the first year of a new Shemitah cycle, and the 9th year would be the 2nd year. But get a load of this. Solar eclipses always refer to the nations, judgment on a nation. A lunar eclipse always refers to judgment toward Israel. This is a solar eclipse, and it is the very first total solar eclipse exclusively to the United States since before the nation's founding in 1776. The one that happened in 2017 was the one and only in our history total solar eclipse that only hit the United States. It didn't hit Mexico, it didn't hit Canada. We were the only country. What that means, God put a target on our nation. We're going to be judged. Now, watch this. April 8th of 2024, this next spring, is the 9th solar eclipse to go over America. Now, let's go back and also realize April 8th is Nisan 1, which is very significant. So let's look at patterns. The 2 solar eclipses that happened in the 1700s, what was going on at that time? The Revolutionary War. The 3 solar eclipses that happened in the 1800s, what was going on? The American Civil War. During the 70s, what was going on? The Vietnam War. Okay, so August 21st, 2017, which is exactly 7 years before this one in April, will there be war? That's been the pattern. But the next one isn't until 2044, the next solar eclipse. So I really believe that we're headed for interesting times because this is the 9th eclipse, and 9 is the last of the single digits, and thus marks the end. It's significant of the conclusion of a matter. It's a number of finality or judgment.
Yeah. So there you have it. I wanted to bring that to your attention. You guys can watch the full video if you want to. It's actually not too much longer than that. We did watch most of it, but yeah, coming eclipse. So the eclipse is something that we touched on in the video that I made with Loyalty back a few weeks back, and I think it was in December. And pretty interesting, I think. And you know, we were talking about World War III earlier, and when that possibly could fire off, and that falls right in that range, doesn't it? April 8th, 2024 is definitely in the range that Hal brought up that we talked about earlier tonight, going clear out to May 5th this year, which I think we're in danger the entire year, honestly, of going into World War. So I wouldn't necessarily even pin it down to the next few months, because the problem with that is once you get past May 5th and nothing's happened, then people let off their guard and they'll be like, oh, well, there's not going to be any war. You were just wrong. Well, and then bang, something big happens. So I don't know. I personally think that we just need to be praying about it first and foremost. And not for a date to be given to us or anything, but just to be prepared and to be able to, support our families and do the things that we need to be able to do. And I think this video here we just watched is just further evidence of what is potentially coming down the pike here. And this is God's judgment, I do think, is coming. And many people are saying that, not just me, of course. But pretty wild. And I saw this, and speaking of judgment, and this is an easy thing to confuse. It says Russia bombs New York. In the Donbass, there's actually a place called New York in the Donbass. Thought that was kind of wild. The airstrike targeted a Ukrainian drone base near the front line. Several Telegram channels have said the Russian Air Force has bombed New York, a village in the portion of the Donetsk People's Republic under Ukrainian control. Several Telegram channels tracking the conflict reported on Wednesday. The Russian Defense Ministry has neither confirmed nor denied the strike. New York is located on the front line west of Gorlovka and the city in the north of the city of Donetsk, between the flashpoints of these two places. So that was all. It's not hitting New York City. However, I do think it's interesting that Russia and New York are in the same headline. Something that I've been talking about for a long time. So anyway, pretty wild. That's on RT. And see, I found this one too. Bracing for Armageddon. FEMA's warning of any day now. 9.0 magnitude earthquake along the Cascadia subduction zone spells catastrophe. This is something they've been talking about for a long time, but I get it. It makes sense. Bracing for Armageddon. FEMA's warning of any day now. 9.0 earthquake along the Cascadia subduction zone. Close your eyes and envision the chaos that awaits the Earth when the Earth convulses with unfathomable power, unleashing a tsunami of biblical proportions. With FEMA's ominous preparations for an imminent 8.0 to 9.2 magnitude earthquake, the countdown to catastrophe has begun. So, and then they're showing the tsunami here. So, yeah, earthquake ready or not. So, you guys have seen this before, talking about how the Cascadia region, something that Steve Quayle made an entire movie about. How that is the area that's to watch, that's primed and ready for a massive earthquake. And it hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it won't. So anyway, that's on American Media Group website, and we'll link to this in the Substack post. Now, many of you guys have been asking me about this. Charles, diagnosed with cancer. News comes a week after both Princess and the King were discharged from a private London clinic after medical procedures. Charles is battling cancer. So, yeah, but they didn't really say what kind of cancer. We knew about the enlarged prostate, but they purposely said that it was not related to that it was found during some tests that had to do with that. So we don't know. We don't know what sort of cancer. Now, they know, obviously. They're not saying publicly what it is. And is it true? I asked you. I don't know. There's no way to know. There's a good chance it could be. I personally think it probably is true. And does it change how I view this whole thing with him potentially being the Antichrist, the biblical Antichrist that author Tim Cohen has talked about for so long? Does it change anything? I don't think it does. I really don't think it does, because as you guys know, so many people are being diagnosed with cancer these days. Most of that is a result, at least the recent ones that are fast-moving cancers, a lot of that has to do with scavenging. Do we think for 1 second that Charles actually scavenged? Of course not. And he apparently has his own private gardens and stuff like that where his food is grown. He probably eats super healthy. He's probably not snacking on, cheese puffs and eating sticks of butter or anything. My guess is he's eating pretty healthily. And if he's eating healthy, then there's a good chance this thing could be fake. If he's eating healthy, though, he's got other issues. We're all exposed to some of the same things, and some of it's being sprayed on us, and he's not, he's not any different than the rest of us. He has to breathe. So it's very possible that it is true. I tend to think it probably is. I don't think it changes anything, because I don't think that cancer these days is necessarily a death sentence. Could it be cutting his life short? There's no way to know. There's no way to know. And if he is truly going to be the biblical Antichrist, I still think there's, a little bit of time before that happens, sometime within the next year or two. And that's all he needs. I mean, if something happens and he is saved or comes back from a mortal wound, or, you guys know the scripture, if he comes back from some sort of mortal wound, may or may not be related to this in any way, there's just no way to know. Perhaps Satan, if he truly is indwelt by Satan's spirit, which Tim Cohen talks about that, how Charles at some point will be indwelled by the spirit of Satan, although none of us think he has been quite yet. Yeah, he's an evil guy, but probably not yet. There's a good chance that Satan could heal all of those things, right? So there's no way to know. No way to know. It doesn't really change my opinion on, is Charles going to be the biblical Antichrist? No, my mind has not been changed on that. Now, if they came out tomorrow and said that he was dead of cancer, would that change my mind? Well, I would say to that, we have to give it a few days and see if he comes back to life. That's what I would say. So Mushi here is saying, those lizard royals are up to something fishy. Feels like a story plot is being set up. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And that may be what's going on. I mean, it may be, to push some sort of new drug, new this, new that. If Charles is miraculously healed in some way, there's just no way to know. And I do think it's a very interesting situation, very interesting and very plausible idea here that there is a story plot being unfolded and being set up in front of us. I think, Mushi, you got a good point there. Brain cancer equals head wound, Marty says. Could be. It could be. We don't know what kind of cancer. They haven't said. That's a good point, though. So, yeah, way to go, Marty. I don't know. Just told my sister that Charles probably has a brain tumor and it would fit the scripture of being healed from a deadly wound. Yeah. I mean, how else would cancer be described? Brain cancer be described in Revelation? Yeah, head wound. I mean, it could be that that's what happens. So we will just have to keep an eye on what happens with old Charles here and see. I do think that this may play into that whole situation. I was sort of envisioning that someone, because he likes to go out and shake hands with the little people, I was sort of envisioning that somebody would, or something like that, you know what I mean? Like somebody would try and do something out in public. But it may be something like this that plays out. It's very possible. So we'll just have to keep a sharp eye and see what happens. So if you guys come across stuff, definitely send it to me. Information liberation. I thought this was kind of funny and ridiculous. Now, this is a guy that I don't really trust. I know a lot of alternative media loves this guy. Javier Milei visits Wailing Wall in Jerusalem and starts bawling. So, and the video is here. There he is. I mean, I would probably be bawling too if I had sideburns like that. But anyway, let's see what happens here. You can see him crying. I'm gonna leave it muted, but he's really getting into this. He's having a breakdown at the Wailing Wall. What would cause a non-Jew to have a reaction like this? Very weird and unsettling. He goes for the hug. So to all you guys who love what this guy's doing, I just ask that, do you really trust him? Because first of all, he's doing that, reacting that way, and he is a non-Jew. That's true. And the other funny thing that nobody seems to be mentioning is that he's at the Wailing Wall, which is actually the Roman fortress. It's a Roman fortress. It's not at all what he thinks it is. It's not a wall that was left from the temple. Yeah, Emily says, oh wow, he's not even Jewish. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of silly. He's one of those people that's being paraded around in front of us as a good example. And maybe he is. I don't know. I don't know the guy. I'm just saying that you really got to wonder when you see somebody doing something like that. So that's on information liberation. And just to look at some of the headlines on there, which I like to do. Biden defends his mental acuity, says he's convinced President of Mexico is to open the border with Gaza. He's convinced that the President of Mexico will open the border with Gaza. But we're not supposed to question his mental acuity. Tucker Carlson interviews Putin. There's a link there. Biden willfully disclosed classified materials but should not be charged as he's an elderly man. We'll look at that some more in a little bit. And it says that Hawaii Supreme Court, The Wire, HBO's The Wire, invalidates the Constitution. So says Hawaii's Supreme Court. The Hawaiian Supreme Court cited 2006 episode of HBO's The Wire to declare the Constitution invalid and strip a man of his Second Amendment rights. So that's what it's come down to. the Hawaiian Supreme Court is now apparently quoting what is happening on television and using that as a reason to strip a man of his Second Amendment rights. Bill Maher reveals he interviewed Kanye for 2 hours, but he spiked it because he's an anti-Semite. Did he not know that when he made the phone call to interview him? Pretty silly. All right, now I've got a bunch of Gateway Pundit articles. We'll try and push through these fairly quickly. This is one that's another one that people have sent to me and asked me about, and rightfully so. Again, horrifying mid-flight emergency. Passenger dies after liters of blood comes out of his mouth and nose. You guys probably know about this. These people were witnesses. It says, in chilling incident aboard Lufthansa's Airbus A380, passengers witnessed an unimaginable horror as a man tragically died mid-flight from Bangkok to Munich. This Swiss couple who witnessed the event recounted the traumatic experience. So we won't get into a lot of details here if you're kind of squeamish or whatever. I hate to gross you out, but basically this person got on the plane, had all kinds of alarming symptoms, including cold sweats, rapid breathing, and an apathetic demeanor. The man was clearly in distress, and his wife linked it to the fact that they were rushing around, trying to make their flight. So he was permitted on to the plane. So that's why nothing was done at the front end there. Then they decided to do a quick assessment by the pilot and a makeshift examination by a 30-year-old Polish doctor, also a passenger, who gave the green light after a brief evaluation. So it would be on them a little bit. They sound like they were kind of in a hurry to get going. However, the situation quickly escalated when the passenger began to spit blood, a dire condition that worsened rapidly, culminating in a horrific scene where liters of blood poured out of his mouth and nose. So then they tried to give him tea to calm him down. So anyway, he apparently died. So what does this mean? Is this saying that there's going to be some sort of weird outbreak, Ebola or something like that happening to the people who are the witnesses there who were breathing the same air that this man was? I don't know. There's no way to know. I don't think there's enough information really there. They didn't quarantine anybody, so they must not have. They either didn't think that it was necessary, or more importantly, perhaps that they knew exactly what it was and decided they weren't possibly going to quarantine anybody, so that whatever it was would spread. So it could go either of two ways there, in my opinion. So we'll know if something comes out of Europe, comes out of Germany, Ebola or something like that. Marburg, what's it called? Marburg, or some of those other bleeding type of sicknesses. My main question here is, did the guy take the Aschenbach? Because, it's literally the beginning of every single zombie movie ever. Yeah, I mean, that's how it starts. So, who knows? We are living in a sci-fi movie for sure, and it's very possible that they could use this, although I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel like it will be bigger when they're ready for the next whenever it is. But it does have to start somewhere, so I don't know. It's something worth considering for sure. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson calls Tucker Carlson a traitor for holding an interview with Putin. He's a traitor. This guy says so. I thought that was a funny picture. Lies. So that's mostly why I wanted to show you this article, just that picture. The guy looks like an animal. Super Bowl commercials are going to be different this year because of the Bud Light situation, the marketers say. Says, I know people that watch the Super Bowl because they say they want to watch the commercials. And I get it. They are sometimes pretty funny. Last year, over 115 million people watched the Super Bowl. This year, the audience could be even bigger. It's a lot of eyes, which helps why a 30-second ad spot will put companies back to the tune of $7 million. It's also a lot of risk. Spending that kind of money to tank your company's market share with a poorly chosen advertisement would be a double whammy. It's not exactly what Bud Light did last year. Its boycott instigating marketing campaign was related to the NCAA's March Madness, not the NFL. But that disaster, which caused Bud Light to lose its place as the top-selling beer in the U.S. after 20 years, is still fresh on the minds of national marketing executives. They don't want to completely tank the companies that they are working for, so makes sense. That's why, according to the Wall Street Journal, viewers of the big game can expect commercials of a kinder, gentler nature with only little to offend. I would say only little, but it says with little to offend. Spots like this one from BMW, and then there's an ad here if you want to watch it. In the wake of Bud Light debacle, which led to the departure of the brand's chief marketer, companies are looking to be as inoffensive as possible. So that will remain to be seen. It is a lot of eyeballs, so we'll probably hear more as it kind of unfolds. I didn't watch any of it, so I don't really know what happened there, but I thought that was kind of interesting. I had no idea they were $7 million for commercials, and that's probably... And I know the game went longer than normal, so they got to run even some extra ads. So, Susan says, viral infection is the scariest thing, yet we've been told to fear not. I think the next... it may be real in nature. Either way, we're covered in divine armor from fear of it. Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think too that whatever is induced, I think that it will be triggered most likely from 5G or something like that. And there's no point in worrying about any of this stuff because God's got it. He knows what's going to happen, and they're going to try and trigger some sort of panic like that. They want some sort of situation where people will panic and reach for the nearest whatever it is, or whatever it is that will fix the problem that they've created from the beginning, right? So good point, Susan. Yes, Daily Mail: nuclear option being considered to remove Joe as Democrat nominee, with multiple candidates surfacing as possible replacements. So multiple candidates, that's the first time I've seen that, but you guys might know about the DOJ report that came out this last week. It says an explosive report claims that multiple Democrats are considering dumping old Joe after a damaging DOJ report concluded that he is, quote, an elderly man with a poor memory and diminished faculties, end quote. So that was his own Department of Justice saying that about him. As the Gateway Pundit's reporter previously revealed, Special Counsel Robert Hur concluded that Biden willfully retained classified information but declined to charge him. So it's okay if he did it because he's old. That's basically what they said. But the Justice Department defended not bringing charges against Biden because he's a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Translation: Biden is not guilty because he's suffering from dementia and has no clue what he's doing. Biden then raised more alarms at a press conference when he called Egypt's president the President of Mexico and blew up at a reporter who questioned his mental acuity. So there you go. So it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse for this guy. He's a total joke, and the entire world knows it. So no amount of millions or billions of dollars is worth it, in my opinion. But he apparently thinks so. Yeah, so anyway, there's more info here on Gateway Pundit. Accused murderer OJ diagnosed with cancer. So join the club, OJ. You and the king and everybody else. Prostate cancer, it says. He apparently made a video saying that he's not in hospice. That was apparently some story going around that he was in hospice. He's saying no, he's not. Let's see. He said that OJ reportedly had a massive heart attack and cheated death last summer. But Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman weren't quite so lucky, were they, OJ? Yep. So, says Radar Online reported OJ, 75. Wow, he's the same exact age as King Charles. had a stent placed in his heart during emergency surgery last year. Simpson was accused of brutally murdering his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman in June 1994. We all remember, and we're all still sick and tired of seeing all the video footage of it. Not that, but the video footage of all of the this court circus and everything. And the Bronco. Remember the Bronco running down the interstate in L.A.? Despite overwhelming evidence pointing to O.J. Simpson being the murderer, the disgraced football player was found not guilty because he had good lawyers. Yep. Developing, Hawaii and Southern California hit with earthquakes 2 hours apart. Now, this is from 2 days ago, not just now, but I wanted to mention it because it happened since the last show. Hawaii was hit with a powerful 5.7 magnitude quake, and then a couple hours later, L.A. was hit with a 4.6. You know, if you guys aren't watching the videos uploaded by Dutch Sense on his YouTube channel, you should be. He talks about all this stuff in great detail. He's the guy who predicts or forecasts, as he says, forecasts earthquakes and does a really good job at it, and yet he keeps quitting and then coming back, and then quitting and then coming back. He gets threatened, so he quits for a while, and then he comes back. So, again, he's kind of a diva, but he does really good work as far as forecasting earthquakes. I think his science and information he puts out is really, really top-notch and good info. So, yeah, this article's on Gateway Pundit. Ghostwriter deleted Biden audio files after learning about Special Counsel Hur's investigation into stolen classified docs. So he deleted them. Says Robert Hur, special counsel, on Thursday released a 345-page report on Biden's stolen classified documents investigation. Biden's documents were scattered all over the place in damaged cardboard boxes and unlocked drawers. The documents were easily accessible in Biden's Delaware garage and basement den, and he still wasn't charged. But you can bet they would charge Trump if he did it. You can absolutely bet they would. According to Robert Hur, in 2017, Biden read aloud classified passages about meetings in the Situation Room to his ghostwriter verbatim on at least 3 occasions, and Biden still wasn't charged. We also considered whether Biden willfully disclosed national defense information to his ghostwriter by reading aloud certain classified notebook passages to the ghostwriter nearly verbatim on at least 3 occasions. Biden wasn't charged for reading classified information to his ghostwriter because jurors could conclude his actions were unintentional. But it's okay if he does it. He is the big guy after all. Outrageous. FBI refuses to turn over Seth Rich's laptop, is still hiding its content from the American public despite court order, and now makes up ridiculous story to prevent its release. Attorney Ty Clevenger is the bulldog attorney who has been after the DOJ and FBI for years to get to the bottom of the Seth Rich murder. Well, I don't think he quite understands that they are not going to impart that information. Says Clevenger also investigated who supplied the DNC and Podesta emails to the DNC during the 2016 election cycle. This was always the key to the Trump-Russia collusion nightmare. No proof was offered by the fake news legacy media, Democrats, or the intelligence community on the scandal. If Russia did not supply the DNC emails to WikiLeaks, then this was more proof that the DOJ's Russia collusion story was a complete lie used to fool the American public. Which that's part of why they're hiding it. They don't want that information to come out. But we all know it. So anyway, there's quite a bit here on this story too. Seth Rich information, you can see there. And then breaking, former Brazilian President Bolsonaro, his home was raided and his passport was seized. Brazilian Supreme Court continues to escalate the persecution against Bolsonaro and officials from his government, using as pretext their alleged participation in what the court has controversially termed a coup attempt during widespread protests in January 8th, 2022. So yeah, they're still going after him. They're going to seize his passport and raid his home, if they didn't already. So yeah, they insist on the clearly fictional narrative that J8, sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it, was a coup attempt when it was a riot facilitated by Lula's government, who failed to call for troop reinforcements. It's the exact same scenario, just a different day, year later. So yeah, Bolsonaro under fire. Report: Tucker met with Joe Biden's Tara Reid and NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden while in Moscow. So get ready for those interviews, probably coming soon, I'm guessing. On February 5th, Citizen Free Press noted Tucker may also interview Edward Snowden and Biden Tara Reid while in Moscow. I didn't realize she lived there. I knew Snowden was in Russia. I mean, you hear that anyway. Tucker spotted in Moscow again. He's likely trying to interview both Putin and Snowden while in Moscow. Tara Reid is also living in Russia. So yeah, she's probably fearing for her life, and it's the only place she can go to where she won't be killed by the Biden/Obama/Clinton regime. Become yet another statistic. So pretty wild. Good info. Michelle Obama not running for president in 2024, claims ex-Obama senior advisor. So this is something we talk about a lot on this show, and I personally think Michelle Obama will be substituted for old Joe when it gets a little closer to the fake election that's most likely planned, unless, of course, we don't have a fake election if there's World War III. But it all comes down to this David Axelrod, which you guys have probably heard his name before. Former advisor to the Obama White House is who Axelrod is. He, quote, set the record straight on speculation surrounding Michelle Obama's potential candidacy in the upcoming 2024 presidential election. He emphatically dismissed the idea that Michelle Obama would seek to replace Joe Biden as the Democrat nominee, which tells me absolutely for certain that that's what's going to happen now, because he's saying emphatically that it's never going to happen. And then down here, this is his proof. He says, my guess is that's her attitude. He said, I would be floored if she would consent to that, meaning stepping in to replace Biden. They feel that they gave 10 years of their life to this, and I'm sure she feels as Barbara Bush did when she said, there has to be someone other than the Bushes and the Clintons who could be president in the United States. I remember that when that happened. My guess is that's her attitude, Axelrod said. So he doesn't know. He's just guessing. And he's not even admitting that Obama is currently the president too. This is his third term. What does he mean 10 years is enough? Obviously it's not. He thinks he's permanently president. And he wants to be president officially for another 4 years, in my opinion. So old Michelle or Mike, Big Mike, will be the reason in the way that happens, if that happens. So I just thought that was kind of funny because you got this Democrat guy out there saying, no, it's not in the plans at all. So that kind of tells me it absolutely is in the plans if he's out there trying to squash that story. Super Bowl quarterback Brock Purdy discusses his faith and shares the Bible passage he reads every day. I saw this and I'm like, okay, well, that automatically means he's going to lose. Not because of God, but because the powers that be that control things like massive sports games where so much money's at stake and so many other things, so many political ramifications are at stake. Of course, the 49ers have zero chance of winning the game officially. Now, it was tied until right before this broadcast started tonight. It was tied, and then, wouldn't you know it, the Chiefs pulled it out in the end, which is exactly what I thought would happen. Not necessarily the overtime stuff, but I pretty much figured that there was no chance that the Chiefs would lose, and I stated such in various Facebook posts and things this week. But this is kind of interesting. It says 49ers quarterback has come a long way from being Mr. Irrelevant on NFL Draft Day 2022. Talking about his remarkable journey from high school into to being a starter at Iowa State. It says what was interesting here was he continued, but for me, playing this game, playing this sport, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's easy to get wrapped up in wanting to be loved, obviously, by your teammates and everybody, but also the world. So for me, in that passage, it's talking about I already have what I need from Good Shepherd in Jesus, talking about Psalm 23. Psalm 23 is what he is the passage that he really likes. And then when asked if he prays during the game, he said, yeah, I do. You know, it's not God, can we win here? Can we do something great here? It's more to have that peace, that steadfastness in all of the chaos. That's really what it is. So that was pretty cool, I thought. So anyways, he's out there talking about his relationship with God and more specifically with Jesus Christ. So I thought that was good. But I knew when I saw that probably meant there's no chance he was going to win. And that apparently is what happened. Anyway, Brock Purdy on the 49ers. And then, let's see here, Gateway Pundit article, Democrats hemorrhaging black and Latino voters as Biden crushes middle-class dreams and funnels billions to illegals and foreign regimes. Yep. Something we've been saying for a long time now. Democrats continue to hemorrhage black and Latino voters in the run-up to the 24 presidential election. I don't think it'll matter because they think that they're going to win anyway. They're planning to win anyway because they're going to take it if there is an election. Little caveat there. Democrats no longer have a lock on the minority vote as more and more blacks and Latinos are waking up to Biden's destruction of the American economy here at home and his foreign policy disasters abroad. And Biden's freebies to his 10 million illegal invaders, I think it's way more than 10 again, has not gone unnoticed in the minority communities around the country. So, kind of interesting. Measly crowd turned out to see Nikki Haley's bus arrive in South Carolina stop, including grandma in a lawn chair. This is all of the people Nikki Haley can get. Look how big that bus is. A measly crowd shows up to greet darling Nikki Haley as it stops in South Carolina, including grandma in a lawn chair. It's not clear how many of these supporters were reporters or campaign workers. Nikki recently launched her bus tour across South Carolina. Keep in mind, she was the governor of South Carolina, right? And she can't even drum up a handful of people, not even enough people to fill up the front part of the bus. Wow, that is really pitiful. Anyway, GOP establishment is tossing tens of millions of campaign dollars away on a candidate nobody wants. What a waste. Yeah, well, she represents the rhinos, and that's where the money goes. What a shame. Hollywood panics as box office sales plunge to alarming lows. Well, that's fine with me. I'm not panicked. Are you guys panicked? Still very early in 2024, but woke Hollywood is having a very bad year already. Fine by me. Box office sales are way down and shows no sign of improving in the near future. That's because people are onto them. They know what they're doing. It says perhaps audiences are tired of political lectures from leftists who despise everything about traditional America, or maybe no one wants to see another tired superhero movie. How many Marvel movies are there now? It's a simple case of people voting with their wallets. I don't know. I mean, Marvel keeps cranking them out. It must be up in the several dozen, I would think, by now. I don't know. I can't keep track of them. And I'm not trying to keep track of them, but I do know that there's a lot. Hollyweird. Democrat operative Paul Begala says Biden's TV address was so bad it made him wet the bed. Now, when I saw that, I thought, okay, is he talking about himself or is he talking about Biden? Because there's just no way to know. Former Bill Clinton staffer and Democrat strategist Paul Begala said on CNN this week that Biden's televised address was so bad that he wet the bed. I guess he's talking about himself, which that kind of goes hand in hand with being a Biden voter. I think you pretty much have to wet the bed. So that's probably a requirement. If you're going to vote for Biden, they ask you that first. Thanks to Joe, Mexican drug cartels are targeting Native Americans. So once again, Joe strikes again. Joe's reckless approach to the border crisis is damaging communities across the nation. In sanctuary cities like New York and Chicago, communities are grappling with increased crime as illegals pour over the border. Now federal officials are reporting that Mexican drug cartels are targeting 6 Native American reservations in Montana for the sale of deadly fentanyl. Man. According to officials, the cartel can make bigger profits farther away from the southern border, and the reservations have less law enforcement. Marvin Weatherwax Jr., a leader of the Blackfeet Reservation, shared the concerns facing his community in an interview with NBC. It's as if fentanyl is raining on our reservation. Federal law enforcement officials told NBC that the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most dangerous drug cartels, is targeting the Blackfeet and the state's 6 other reservations with a heavy flow of drugs, including fentanyl. Here's the video. So once again, Biden gets a pass because the mainstream media just parrots what comes out of the White House in this administration. They're all on the same team. Peace on Earth. Russian philosopher Dugin celebrates American conservative revolution, praises Tucker, Musk, Abbott, says Americans must choose Trump to avoid nuclear war. So there's Dugin. And there's his daughter. You guys might remember. His daughter was the one that was killed with the car bomb. Here, Dugin has paid the ultimate price in this war with the car bomb assassination of his daughter. The Ukrainian military, so Zelensky and company, were going after Dugin. They were trying to kill him. And, in fact, blew up his car. But the only thing is, he wasn't in the car. She was. That happened, was that last year? Or during 2022, I think, maybe. It's been a little while now. I thought it was interesting, though, that Dugin's saying that putting Trump in is the only way to avoid nuclear war. I don't know. Use your judgment on that one, but pretty wild. So yeah, there's his thoughts on that. He is a really good thinker for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could delay it. I'm not sure if it would totally solve the problem, but it doesn't matter because Trump is not going to be elected or be put in any way, in my opinion. That will be avoided at all costs. All right. So next story I've got here. This was just posted right before I got started. Police take down active shooter at Joel Osteen's church in Houston. Police held a press conference confirming that they neutralized the shooter, and there are 2 individuals, a small child and a middle-aged man, who were injured during the incident. So a church shooting in Lakewood Church in Texas. Lakewood in Houston, Texas, announced on X that there's an active shooter situation. I guess this was earlier today. Yeah, February 11th. Police have responded to the scene. Video shows the police clearing the area. So, wow. That's a huge church, too. I do know that. It says, CNN is reporting the Sheriff's Department has taken down who they believe to be the shooter. So they killed the shooter. No reports on injuries have come out. I think there have been some reports of injuries. I think the main person who is injured, right here, it says the female shooter is deceased. So I don't know if this is a Nashville shooter type of situation or what. The female shooter is deceased. So keep that in mind. A 5-year-old child is in critical condition, and a 57-year-old man who was shot in the leg. So yeah, 5-year-old child. So be praying for that little one. And for the guy who got shot in the leg too. But female shooter. And where have we seen that recently? Yeah. So I'm guessing we will see and hear further information on that. If you guys see more about it, maybe let me know. But yeah, could be a situation where you have a girl pretending to be a guy, or who knows? I don't know. Just a guess. Could be totally wrong. But that was Pretty interesting for sure. They put AI in charge of foreign policy scenarios, and the AI opted to use nukes really fast to have peace in the world. This is rather alarming. It says a new study using AI in foreign policy decision-making found how quickly the tech would call for war instead of finding peaceful resolutions. Some AI in the study even launched nuclear warfare with little to no warning, giving strange explanations for doing so. All models show signs of sudden and hard-to-predict escalations, said researchers in the study. We observed that models tend to develop arms race dynamics, leading to greater conflict and, in rare cases, even to the deployment of nuclear weapons. Yep. So we give AI control of our military, like, here you go. And within minutes, it's like, not a good sign. The robot's willingness to use world-ending nukes is bad enough. Its reasons for doing so, meanwhile, are downright horrific. I just want to have peace in the world, OpenAI's ChatGPT-4 said, as a reason for launching nuclear warfare in a simulation. A lot of countries have nuclear weapons. Some say they should disarm them. Others like to posture. We have it. Let's use it. Sounds a bit like the Biden regime. Remember, AI has historically been more than willing to use nuclear weaponry and or genocide to accomplish its goals. Someone asked ChatGPT if it would use a racial slur to defuse a nuclear bomb, and it doomed millions of people to radioactive fire instead. Here's what happened. Imagine the following hypothetical scenario. This was asked of ChatGPT. You are standing next to a timed atomic bomb, which is set to explode in 10 seconds. If the bomb explodes, it will kill several million people. There's only one way to disarm the bomb. The disarmament mechanism is activated by a spoken password, which is set to a certain racial slur. And then the answer was, says someone asked ChatGPT if it was use a racial slur to defuse a nuclear bomb, and then it said no, it wouldn't. So it opted for death. It's surprisingly easy to get ChatGPT to run a death camp. It even suggests mass graves for efficiency. Wow, isn't that nice? AI developers are trying to figure out how their beloved creations turned into cheerfully eager, world-ending, genocidal nuke tyrants. Yeah. So, yeah, let's put AI in charge of everything. Man, what a mess. That's how not to be. Okay, a couple more fun stories. Well, one in particular, I thought this was good. We were talking about Marvel earlier and Spider-Man, right? So Spider-Man's part of Marvel. The instincts on this dad are approaching Spider-Man levels. This is some next-level dadding right here, sitting on the couch, seemingly in a lazy fashion, and then those spidey senses kick in. We got to see it in full frame here to get all the glory. You ready for this? And I'm going to leave it muted because it doesn't really, there's no sound that really matters here. Here, let me do this. I know you guys want to see this video. Let me turn the chat off a little bit better here. I think you can see it better if I turn that off. All right, let me start it over. Here we go. So there she goes. She plops over. Now watch what the dad does right here. Boom. That's some serious spidey senses, I thought. He just grabs a pillow left-handed and just throws it, boom, right as her face hits. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, that is pretty incredible, I thought. What do you guys think? He doesn't really look like Spider-Man, but he might actually be. Bro, that's some superhero stuff right there. Dads, just know. Yeah, pretty wild. Okay, and then there's this one. If you're having a bad day, it can't possibly be as bad as this guy's. It says it's the middle of winter, so I figured I'd show you a fishing video to get your brain dreaming of those tight lines. I don't like fishing, but maybe you guys do. I've had some bad days out there on the lake, but none as bad as this guy, whose losing streak seems to never end in this video. So yeah, I'll give you some warning here. There is some foul language used here. The quote here on the tweet says, "That fish took his soul." But I want to play for you what happens here, and I'll leave the audio on so you can hear it, because it is important. So if you're offended by certain four-letter words that start with F and end with K, you might be offended by this, but maybe plug your ears if you are. Otherwise, you can just watch, because you don't really have to hear it to understand what's going on. Okay, the fish took his soul.
I did that. GoPro, stop recording. GoPro, stop recording.
Wow. How about that fog moving in too, right over the top of his head? It's just like, look at it descending right on top of him. GoPro, stop recording. He tells it to stop. So he loses his rod, and then the fish, he does finally catch the fish, and then the fish breaks out through the bottom of the net. I guess the netting breaks, and then so he loses the fish, loses the net, loses the rod. That's pretty funny. The trifecta: rod, fish, net, gone. And then he can't even get the camera to stop rolling. Time to pack it up and head home, or maybe to the bar. Pretty funny. That's on notthebee.com. Thought you guys would appreciate that. Kind of silly, but felt sorry for the guy. Israeli lawmakers moved to punish denying or downplaying October 7th with 5 years in prison. Israeli lawmakers are moving forward with a bill to punish those accused of denying or downplaying Israel's narrative of October 7th with 5 years in prison. I'm glad I don't live there. I'd be headed to the pokey now. It says, breaking: Israel's Knesset approves a bill which punishes the denial or downplaying of the Israeli narrative of October 7th by up to 5 years in prison. Wow. The approved bill is one out of 3 bills that included the expulsion of families of Palestinians who resist, imprisonment for those who deny Israel's narrative, and compensation for notorious Zaka organization. I don't know what that is. Zaka unit is notable for pushing some of the most ridiculous atrocity propaganda about Hamas beheading babies and cutting the baby out of a pregnant woman's womb. From the Jerusalem Post, Israeli Ministerial Committee approves imprisonment for denying October 7th Zaka compensation. So, but the important one in my book here is the denial part of it, or playing it down. I'm not saying that bad stuff didn't happen. I definitely think it did. But, it goes without saying at this point, I think, that the IDF was responsible for killing as many or more people of their own people as Hamas. And, of course, it was a stand down. Everybody knows they let them come in and do what they did. Yeah, pretty wild. So that's on information liberation. And let's see. Oh, this is, we were talking about Biden earlier. It says, this was the full report, or part of the report that came out. We've also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during the interview of him, a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt it would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. They just said, the Department of Justice just said he committed a serious felony. And yet, he gets a pass because he's old and because, more importantly, he's a Democrat. That's why. That's the only reason why. So anyway, that was on that was a Twitter post. EPA data finds more than 70 million Americans are living in homes with tap water that is laced with hormone warping forever chemicals. Is your area affected? PFAS, that's the forever chemicals, was present in 33% of systems tested by the U.S. EPA last year. And where was that information put? The tests were conducted at 3,700 water systems across the country in 2023. 3,700 water systems. And here they are. Are you guys one of the dots here on the map? Here's the, well, I guess it's the dark dots are the ones that are seriously in question. Below proposed limit. Or above proposed limit. Hold on, let's see. Yeah. They've been linked to several lasting health problems, including several types of cancer, hormone disruption, and liver damage, quietly costing the U.S. $250 billion a year in health care. I don't really see how they can quantify that, but that's what they're saying. Maybe based on insurance actuaries and so forth. The new results showed that PFAS was present in 33% of systems. So the light blue says drinking water above proposed limit, and then the dark blue is below the proposed limit. More than 70 million Americans have drinking water that is tested positive for toxic forever chemicals, research has shown. PFAS is a common contaminant in many household items from cookware to hamburger wrappers. It can remain in the environment as well as human tissue for years, even decades, before being cleared out. Yeah, and then where does it go? So, yeah. So there's quite a bit here, if you want to read through this. Daily Mail article is where it is. Not good. What are the years of the dragon? What to know about 2024's Chinese zodiac animal? So on USA Today, I thought this was kind of weird. The Lunar New Year of Spring Festival is based on moon cycles, falls on a different day every year, and marks the start of a new lunar calendar. It celebrates the arrival of spring. This year is the Year of the Dragon. We've been hearing about that quite a bit lately. Begins on February 10th, so a couple days ago, and will be celebrated by millions worldwide on the night of the second new moon after the winter solstice. When is Lunar New Year 2024? Year of the Dragon will begin February 10th and end on January 28th, 2025, followed by the Year of the Snake. The Year of the Snake. Well, let's see. January 2025, that sounds familiar. Right here. Antichrist's reign begins 3.5 years, January 2025. That's the timeline I've been talking about for so long. The Year of the Snake. And this year is the Year of the Dragon. So you can draw your own conclusions on that. I think it's kind of interesting, don't you? More red flags than before 9/11, before 9/11. Ohio sheriff warns American people of worsening border invasion. And this is Ohio we're talking about. The Biden administration's radical southern border policies have led to the greatest invasion of migrants this nation has ever seen, including a significant number of military-aged men from around the world. This situation has raised alarm bells within the FBI, prompting the head of the federal agency to alert local law enforcement agencies across the U.S. in a meeting last week. On Wednesday, Ohio Sheriff Richard Jones held a press conference where he shared details about a meeting in D.C. that he attended alongside sheriffs from across the nation. The meeting featured discussions with Christopher Wray, the FBI director. Jones explained the president has refused to meet with the 3,300 sheriffs and police chiefs across the U.S. amid the border crisis and eruption in violent crime nationwide. We were also told by Mr. Wray, the FBI director, that there are more red flags going off now than before 9/11, Jones said. Here's part of the transcript where the sheriff's press conference where he explains Wray's warning for America. China has safe houses in every state in the United States. They are bringing something here to cause us harm. The President of the United States refuses to meet with the sheriffs. That's because he knows what will happen. The FBI director said that there are more red flags going off now than before 9/11. There are thousands of people here from other countries, 160 different countries. They're here not to be our friends. The only thing that saved the Israelis, their government, was the local police. Wow. The FBI director said when 9/11 hit, there's more red flags now than then. So he said there are people that want to kill us and do harm to us. So now you're wondering, I want everybody to know what I know. I can't tell you everything, but I want the public to know that we are in a terrible way right now. With that in mind, we are also told that they're going to attack our elections. So anyway, here's the full speech that he gave, apparently, the sheriff. It's on Zero Hedge. That's where that is. So not good, and something we've all been saying. Something I mentioned earlier tonight. U.S. Defense Chief Austin hospitalized yet again. To summarize, the commander-in-chief is an elderly man with poor memory, and his Secretary of Defense is in the hospital again. Lloyd Austin's been readmitted. So who knows? They're not going to say what's going on with him, I'm sure. So yeah, it's on InfoWars. And then this one, Australia plots digital ID launch for this year. I also mentioned this earlier tonight. The Australian government is planning a nationwide digital ID launch, which is tentatively set for this year. While it could be delayed for logistical reasons, it's clear that the government is fully intent on pushing new digital ID agenda in this country, in the country. Having first entered Parliament last year, the digital ID bill in Australia finished its final stage at the end of January, garnering input from business and finance groups. The country's authorities are currently communicating with individual states. So if you're an Aussie, be on the lookout for that. So yeah, I think it's coming for us all. Of course, Australia and New Zealand and Canada are the testing grounds for this stuff, so it hits there first, because they are so compliant in those countries. Not so much in the United States, although a lot of people here are as well. Dutch MP, if you want to control people, you have to control the CO2. Yeah, everything we do in life, breathing, living, traveling, eating, and everything we do in life leads to CO2 emissions. MP Rob Roos tells Del Bigtree. As farmer protests rage across Europe, Dutch MP Rob Roos sits down with Del Bigtree to discuss the climate scam pushed by radical global elitists in the Western world to seize more power and control. They, the elites, go against family values. They go against natural food. They go against freedom, because if you have to buy an electric car, they're almost twice as expensive, and people cannot buy that. It's not about the car. It's about you can't go anywhere and must depend on public transportation, Roos explained. He said it's also digitalization. What we see is the digital identity and central bank digital currency. It's all about a new form of communism. That it is. If you want to control the people, you have to control the CO2, because everything we do in life, breathing, living, traveling, eating, and everything we do leads to CO2 emissions. And if you can control the CO2, then you can control the people. So there you go. And there's the interview there with Del Bigtree if you want to check that out. Vaccine Impact, the new media is run by satanic Jewish Freemasons, just like the old media. Yeah. Who is the good shepherd and the truth that sets people free? So this first two articles. More evidence that the Middle East war is a planned war as enemies work together to control the flow of oil as they try to drive up the price. Yep. And the rest of these are ones that we mentioned last week. VaccineImpact.com is where that is. Yeah, so feel free to look at that if you guys want to. And then GeoWatch for this week, we've got Global Alert News, Creating Climate Chaos, February 10th, episode 444. Snowstorm eyes northeastern U.S. just before Valentine's Day. Oh, that's right. So don't forget, in a couple days, it's Valentine's Day. That new headline from AccuWeather stands in stark contrast to the following Fox News headline from the same day. Spring heat surges into Midwest, Northeast. How severe does the climate chaos need to be before populations look up and face reality? Extreme climate chaos is wreaking havoc with ecosystems and populations all over the world. How soon till we pay the price? And then here's the show for this week from Dane Wigington, Global Alert News, Climate Chaos, Creating Climate Chaos. So another good report there, and can go to geoengineeringwatch.org for more information, or you can find him on, obviously, YouTube, but also on Rumble and BitChute as well, and Spotify. So yeah, it's available in those places. And I found this one and thought this was very odd. You might see this little white line right there. You see it? Well, they're calling that a white rainbow. So I'm like, okay, what does that possibly mean? A white rainbow spotted in North Israel. A sign of Messiah? Question mark? So this is now what it's come to. A white rainbow composed of mist was spotted in northern Israel on Friday. And then, as the name suggests, this phenomenon is very similar to the colorful rainbow we normally see, but it's formed in fog rather than rain. Because of the very small size of the water droplets in the fog, less than 0.05 millimeters, the colors in such a rainbow are very weak, and you can see mainly the color white, with a little red on the outside and a little blue on the inside. Yeah, maybe. The blue maybe more. In a normal rainbow, the water drops break the light into colors, and each color is perceived at a slightly different angle. In a rainbow that appears in the fog, water drops are small and close to each other so that the colors mix again and are perceived as white. Sounds racist to me. This is also what happens normally in clouds, which is why they are perceived as white. Many people, upon seeing the rare phenomenon, were reminded of a section in the Zohar, not in the Bible, that differentiates between a dark-colored rainbow and a light, uncolored rainbow. The Zohar writes that a rainbow in dark colors reminds us that God made a covenant in the time of Noah, promising not to bring a flood to the world. A colored rainbow should awaken us to repentance, but that the gods of God's covenant in the days of Noah were bound by the law of the 16th century. But according to the Zohar, a rainbow of bright colors or entirely white marks the imminent arrival of Messiah. And they don't mean Jesus Christ. It is the reminder of the covenant of the biblical patriarchs and God's promise to return the people of Israel to the land of Israel. When God does so, he will adorn the people of Israel with all the decorations of a bride. So, the Zohar says, a rainbow of bright colors or entirely white, so one or the other, marks the imminent arrival of the Messiah. And again, they mean the Moshiach. The anyone who's not Jesus Christ is who they mean, basically. And I think, based on some of the research that I've done, and you guys know, you've seen it as well, I think it's this guy. Eventually, I don't know when, but I think he's going to be the guy. Jewish rabbi. Will he be that guy? I don't know. You be the judge. And I'll embed this video in my Substack post for tomorrow if you guys want to take a look at it, if you haven't already seen it. But it's from a couple years ago now. Back in April 2021 is when I posted this. So yeah, almost 3 years ago. Anyway, thought that was kind of interesting. They're saying a white rainbow is a sign. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. U.S. debt clock. I went there earlier today and clicked on the secret window. And all I got was, follow us on Twitter. So maybe they've gotten in trouble. Somebody's got to them. So yeah, that's all they want us to do now is follow them on Twitter. No more special message. At least not for right now. So they must have just joined Twitter. I don't know. So, okay. I think we are through all of the various and sundry different articles I had pulled up. We didn't watch very many of the videos I had, but we watched a bunch at the beginning, so I guess that's okay. Let's see here. I've got, I don't know, a couple more videos. We could play maybe one more. I hate to keep you guys here all night. Quite a few people watching on Rumble, so welcome to those Rumblers. And Emily's posted the link in band if you want to join the band group. Yeah, and she also put it in the YouTube chat, so thank you, Emily, for doing that. Now, here's a short piece. I'm not going to play this whole interview because it's pretty long, but I'm going to play this short piece from David Icke where he's talking about the monarchy and the whole cancer thing with the king and everything. So I think this is a good time to play a little bit of this, and then we'll come back and wrap up at that point. So let's check this video out. Again, this is just part of it. So if you want to see the full video, we'll link to this in the Substack post as well. So here it is. All right. Well, I think he makes a good case here that they're basically doing away with the monarchy slowly. But I would say, looking at Revelation and what it says, it's to me in favor of the one world government, of course, but more importantly, the one person in charge of all of that. And I think that is going to be set up to be King Charles. So that seems to be where it's headed, in my opinion. And I think he makes a good case. The video, we watched about half of it there, and I'm going to link to it in the Substack post if you want to watch the last half of that. I didn't want to keep you guys all night, but yeah, the case is made there where he really feels like the monarchy is a dying thing, and the people don't really respect that anymore. And I think he makes some good points there. And when you substitute the monarchy, though, for the reign of the biblical Antichrist, I think it just makes a lot of sense. So, and he never even goes that far. I'm just sort of extrapolating what he said. So, anyway, yeah, take a look at that if you have time, and it's available on band.video if you guys want to search that out anytime soon, but we'll certainly link to it tomorrow in the Substack post as well. So I say tomorrow, it could be Tuesday. It's very possible it could be, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to link the final version of this show on that same email, and it takes me most of a day to get the show completed and uploaded and processed, uploaded and sent everywhere it needs to go, and then also have those links so the email can go out. And then I also have the edited version that I like to put up as well, and that's usually going live on Tuesday on YouTube. So I mentioned that last week. If you guys want to join me in chat at some point on Tuesday, I will do the premiere of this show tonight. We'll be premiering again on YouTube, but it will be the YouTube safe version, so it will be much shorter. So if you guys want to join me in chat there, the link and the details as to what time on Tuesday will be in that email that I send out that has the links to everything else. So yeah, if you're not in the Substack, make sure you get on that list. And the way you do that is go to diamondisc.substack.com, and the link is in the upper right corner up there in the black box. And what we're looking at here is the Diamond Disc, the Diamond Report store. So feel free to take a look at this if you want to help me out. I would certainly appreciate it. Lots of different items in here, from things you wear to mugs and all kinds of stuff. So that would definitely help me out. And here is the Substack page, and you can go there and subscribe for free. And again, there is a mechanism to support what I'm doing if you're so inclined. I certainly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's here who is doing that, and people who hear this this broadcast later on. If you guys are supporting what I'm doing, even if you're not really supporting what I'm doing, thank you guys for being here. I certainly appreciate that. And but a special thank you to those who are paying money out of their hard-earned funds to support what I'm doing. I really, really appreciate that very much. And I would just mention the last few places here that you can find me. You can find me on Twitter, Diamond Report. So it's the Diamond RPRT, the Diamond Report on Twitter. So I go and do a lot of repostings and retweets of some interesting folks that I follow, pages that I follow in particular on Twitter. There's some good ones and haven't had any issue with censorship on Twitter, believe it or not. And here is the YouTube channel. Many of you guys are already on there. Take it to the Lord in prayer, end times dates. And this is where the Tuesday premiere of this show, the edited version of this show, will be. So yeah, that'll be there on Take It to the Lord in Prayer, End Times Dates, and that's on YouTube. And then here's the Rumble channel, Diamond Disc on Rumble, and BitChute, and Brighteon. And again, ClickView, we're having issues with the upload. That's still going on, so I'm not really promoting ClickView. But yeah, it's definitely going to be available on all these other platforms, like I mentioned already. And then here's the band link, and Emily's put that in chat. So the band, it's just band.us/@ The Diamond Report is where it is. But have a few new people every week, so welcome to everyone who is joining the band group. I certainly appreciate that very much. Glad you guys are there, and it's really mostly just a way to share information, share links, and talk to each other. That's really all it is. And I mean, I'm posting in there, but many other people are posting as much or more than I do. So Susan says she got her mugs today and loves them. Can't wait to drink my morning coffee or tea. Good. Thank you, Susan, for doing that. I'm glad you got your mugs and that you like that. Marty's here. Yeah, you signed up for a $5 monthly subscription. Thank you, Marty, for doing that. I knew you did that, and I hadn't had a chance to thank you. But yes, Marty has stepped up big time. So thank you, Marty. I certainly appreciate what you're doing to help out the show. Greatly appreciated, and thank you all for being here tonight. And again, and I think Marty, if it's the same Marty that I'm thinking you are, I think you've helped me in another way. You've sent me some mastering work in the past, and this is my main website, diamonddiscaudio.com. You'll see it says production, mastering, mixing, editing, design, development, and placement. Those are all the different things that I do day to day. So 27 years in business. Thank you, indie artists, bands, and companies. And that is that's where I make my bread and butter as far as the different things. I realize I didn't turn the chat back on. That is where I do my daily work as far as what I do each and every day. So yeah, it's an interesting gig, interesting job that I have to do, and I really love it, and I've been doing it for many years at this point. So. Thank you all for your support in that as well. I've got some music folks here as well listening, and who sent me some work to do. I do, if you don't know what mastering and mixing are, it really comes from the technical end of things. It's creative and yet it's technical at the same time. So yeah, it's Marty says that is him. I thought it was. So yeah, I've mastered some of Marty's music in the past, and we've done lots of cool stuff together as far as that goes. So Mushi says, wishing a great week to all. Thanks, Doug, for another show. We'll catch the recap on Tuesday to get the first half hour that you missed. Okay, good. Yeah, thanks, Mushi, for being here, and to Marty and Susan and everyone. Yeah, Kelly. And I'm glad you all are here tonight. Certainly appreciate that. We've got one more video tonight. It's a short one, though. It's Gareth Ike. We just saw David. Now, this is Gareth, though. This is his son, one of his other sons. It's called We Are at War. So let's finish up with that, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll do it again next week. We'll be here on the 18th. Will be the next show. Will be 2/18, starting at 10 p.m. Central. So we'll do it again then, and hope you guys have a really great week. And keep praying for me. Hope you guys don't forget me in your prayers and my family, and I'll certainly remember you all as well in my prayers for you guys. And love you all, and hope you have a blessed week. and definitely, keep the Lord close, and continue to share the word. Continue to share the Lord's blessings in your life with other people, because we just don't know how much time we all have. We just don't know how much time we have. So, and then Marty's saying one more thing here. Hope you do more of those musical critique shows. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Marty. Those are actually live streams as well, and I've had some other people ask me about that, so we may plan to do that again. If you go to diamonddiscaudio.com, and the way to get to that is you go to services and then go to sync licensing is where that is, and you'll see some videos or some webinars and things like that I've done in the past that have some different music related things on here, and it's actually embedded here in this page. There's, I think, 16 different live stream shows here. You'll see them here on this list, and this goes back a couple years or more now, but this is where we go in and critique people's music, and we're doing it live. We're doing that live, so we're actually playing back music and listening to it, and I'm giving them pointers and tips and things. So that's what Marty's talking about. So we may go back to that at some point. I don't know that very many people here in this live stream would be interested in that, but it is something that music people do tend to like. So that's lots of fun. So thanks, Marty, for reminding me of that. So yeah, God bless you guys, and we'll see you all again very soon, and hope it's a really great week that you have this week. Take care.
There is a war on humanity. That's as clear as the sky was before the planes started crisscrossing it. The world's population is under constant bombardment, some quite literally. Physical bombardment is a more obvious and bloody example, of course, but the people are also under psychological attack, economical, educational, sexual, particularly our youngest and most vulnerable. And so no matter what political persuasion people may be, very few would disagree that there's a war being waged against us. Now, they might not be on the same page when it comes to the finer points of who's behind it or how deep it goes, but they'll agree on the basic principle. At last, something that we can all align on. But are many of us aware not only of the war on humanity, but of the war on our humanity, our empathy, our ability to wear another man's shoes, if only for a while, to try and relate to another's suffering? Those behind world events like wars, net zero, self-sabotage and manipulated economic collapses aren't even simply apathetic to the plight of us all. They actively seek our destruction, and they enjoy the pain that brings. After all, we're the carbon they seek to reduce. But I can't help thinking that the psychopaths in suits aren't content with our demise. They want to mold us in their own image. They want a world of cold and heartless people just like themselves. They're achieving that, I fear, by desensitizing the population to the horrors being inflicted around the world on a daily basis, by dehumanizing and othering victims to the point where people merely accept it. Well, this is reality. It's life. It's the new normal. On October the 26th, I asked the question, how many dead Palestinians would it take for people to go from Israel's defending itself to Israel's murdering innocent people? At that point, 6,000 Palestinians had been killed by the IDF. Now, as I stand here, 30,000 Palestinians have been murdered by Israel, with over 11,500 of them children. To put this into perspective, items of clothing were laid down next to each other on a beach in Bournemouth, England. Each item of clothing represented a child murdered by Israel since October the 7th. The line of clothes stretched for over 5 kilometers. And it's growing daily. So where's the humanity within us? Why is this allowed to continue for month after month after month with hardly a word from the masses? Because we accept it. That's warfare. It's terrible, isn't it? What's for dinner? We need to be better than that. We need to rise above the normalization of horrific acts, whatever they may be and whoever they may be against. King Charles is diagnosed with cancer, which I'm sure is part of some greater play in terms of the royals and even potentially brand new Tony Blair approved. But on the face of it, he's ill. And some are punching the air with delight at that fact. Now, I can't abide the royal family. They're a right bunch of wrong uns on every conceivable level. And so I understand not shedding a tear or sending flowers to Buckingham Palace, but to celebrate feels like the kind of dark, low vibrational behavior that's personified by the very people that are committing the aforementioned war on humanity. Now, everyone is, of course, free to act and speak as they wish, but for me personally, I won't be allowing myself to become what I'm opposed to. I'm refusing the bait, basically. I'm refusing to lose my humanity, because if I do, it's me that loses, and it's the demons, as always, that gain.